Commission meeting. Kira, can we get a roll call, please?
Thank you, Barbara. I'll go ahead and take roll call. Chair Grumbine.
Here, but not chair.
Yes, okay. Commissioner Grumbine.
Commissioner Grumbine, here.
And then Commissioner House.
Here.
Commissioner Butler.
Here.
Commissioner Dorden.
Here.
Commissioner Drury.
Here.
Commissioner Ensberg.
Here.
Commissioner Lundvik is absent. Commissioner Manuel.
Here.
And Commissioner Uli.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. First order of business today will be for election of chair. So I'd like to open the floor for nominations for chair.
I will nominate Commissioner Grumbine for chair.
I'll second.
Any other nominations for chair?
Move to close the nominations.
All right. I will call for a roll call.
Thank you. I'll take roll call. Commissioner Dorden.
Yes.
Commissioner Drury.
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel.
Yes.
Commissioner House.
Yes.
And Commissioner Grumbine.
Abstain.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, thanks. Thank you
All
for.
right, congratulations,
Yeah,
Chair
exactly.
Grumbine.
Both.
You're in charge
Yeah.
again now.
All right. So do you stay with this item? Yeah.
Okay, I'll stay with this item. So I'll open the floor now to nominations for vice chair.
Madam Chair, no.
Madam Mayor?
I'll nominate Commissioner House.
Vice
Chair. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none. Kira?
Thank you, Barbara. I'll take the roll call vote. Commissioner Drury.
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel.
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden.
Yes.
Commissioner House.
Abstain.
And Chair Grumbine.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
All right. All right, shall we? On to item B, appointment of consent review representatives and subcommittees. All right, so who,
Do we self-appoint or do they have to be nominated?
so,
So let's do consent for architecture, and then we can do consent for landscape, and then we can move on to the subcommittees.
okay, so it's an appointment and not a vote, is that right? Not a nomination? Or
That's true.
So, or is it? I don't, yeah.
It's, Chair Grumbine, it's not a nomination. I think we're looking for volunteers
And
and.
then get appointed, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, good question.
So then
Well,
it's,
I've gotten my groove on doing
Yeah,
consents.
you're
I'd
good
be
with
happy
it?
to serve.
okay, great. Anyone else would like to as well? Or be appointed as it?
I'll be an alternate if you
Okay.
need one.
Great, thank you. All right, on the architect side of things. All right, perfect. Thank you both for that. And then, so then on the landscape architecture side of things, there's just one, so.
However long I'm on.
Yeah, I think, Chair Grumbine, through you to the rest of the commission, the city council will be appointing a new landscape architect. I believe, well, interviews are on January 24th next week. We did get one application for a licensed landscape architect, so I envision that person, so long as they follow through with the requirements, that we would have a replacement for Commissioner Manuel. So my suggestion is to have you formally be the appointed person, but then that would likely switch, and your time would be very small on that in that role.
So you get the name and the glory, and then there we go.
You get to like way to volunteer.
Yeah, I'll nominate myself, or I'll be it.
Okay.
Thank
you're
you.
the volunteer for it. Thank
Yeah, I'll
you.
volunteer.
If I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
Ms.
Commissioner
Kokin,
Drew.
do you have his name, the gentleman who's,
I'm trying to think. I would rather it come from the
Okay.
on the have it be agendized. So if that's just my preference,
thank
I don't know if that's when that's public information. So, but I do know that we did get one candidate.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, and then, so we have consent, and then we need the subcommittees now. And our subcommittee,
Can I, Mr. Chair, if I may? So I do have, and I can pass this down to you. if you want to pass these down. So you'll see that the list of subcommittees has shrank a little bit, and with consultation from the city attorney's office, there's some guidance related to the Brown Act of not necessarily in looking at all boards and commissions that a lot were forming subcommittees without having the proper approvals. And so, for instance, I just want to say that we have a list. There are subcommittees of the HLC that continue to do things on an annual basis. But for things that you had previously appointed members to, like architectural detail, that will need to be established for a very specific
Okay.
project or
Having it just be a
cause.
standing-
So like, for instance, the De La Guerra Plaza, that was a specific working group that is there to talk about architectural detail and materials. So it kind of needs to have a sunset. So that's how we'll have to operate in the future in order to maintain, conformance to the Brown Act. But yes, there's still a list of things here that need to have appointed members. And for the bottom, the ad hoc committees, we're not expecting changes today because people have already been a part of those particular projects or programs. And unless someone comes out and says, I can no longer serve on that at that committee, but we're trying to have consistency for those types of projects. So I hope that makes sense. But again, I don't want to make you think that you can't have working groups in the future. It just needs to be for a specific thing. And the HLC usually is good about creating, having a specific purpose for when those are created or discussed.
So I'm
Okay.
thankful I'm not going to be sunsetted quite yet.
So through the chair,
Yes.
so on item G of our agenda, that list of subcommittees will be revised to be consistent with what you just said?
Yes, and that was, I didn't have the time to revise the agenda. And again, it doesn't preclude you from being able to have, be able to establish working groups. It would need to be able to be established by the full commission and for a very specific purpose. And, but there are just different times when something might trigger a public meeting. But our designation subcommittee, like that's one that's not going to change. That, it's been established by this commission. It's part of your annual process. And so we'll need sign committee, the designation subcommittee, if anybody will change there, but the ad hoc, I imagine, will stay the same unless someone speaks out.
Okay. I'm just looking at and comparing them to our current list of subcommittees.
Mr.
yes,
Chair, I have
Commissioner-
a question
Commissioner
asking a
Jordan.
clarification regarding objective design standards, where I'm listed as an alternate. I was under the impression I was on that, and I have been participating in all those meetings and commenting. So I just wanted to clarify what my status is on that.
I'm pretty sure, I would continue to operate as you've been operating.
Okay.
And I think perhaps, I don't remember last January and what was established. So you might have been established as an alternate, but it didn't preclude you from being able
It's
to
simply-
participate.
It's simply that I've invested some time in
Yeah.
working on
Okay.
that, and I want to continue.
Okay,
And we
absolutely.
would like that as
Yeah.
well, please.
That makes sense. And then the other aspect of it, I think, is the main reason why we want to make sure we have appointed and alternates is not just so that we have alternates in case the appointed can't make it, but also so that we have enough members there, but not too many, and violate Brown Act side of things. So
Right.
that would also be, as long as we're not at specific meetings together on certain things, it's okay to be flexible in that way.
And
So-
staff will try to monitor that if something like that comes up.
Okay, great.
Chair Grumbine?
Yes.
Question.
Commissioner Ensberg.
I am on the Objective Design Standards Work Group through the AIA. When they put out their request to find people to serve on that, they reached out to AIA and asked if there were people who were willing to volunteer, which I did, and I've also spent a lot of time and work on that as well. So is this a problem?
Mr. Chair, through you to Commissioner Ensberg, I think it's, that, from my understanding, no positions have changed on that, and I don't think we're suggesting that today. It's probably confusing having so many commissioners on this list right now and in the different appointments. So I know that you've been regularly participating, Commissioner Dordan has, and I'm trying to think,
Well, what I'm wondering is if it wouldn't be not a bad idea to switch, like, for example, my spot, or where I haven't been participating much, so that you're actually on it for, and then.
That's a
the
great
Story
suggestion.
Thing, yeah. So why don't we just do that to start with? So,
So a question I would have then, I mean, right now, my understanding is that I'm representing, I'm coming from the AIA member and representing AIA interests as with respect to this work. So I don't know how.
You'd have to trade
So,
in your
Mr.
hat.
Chair, through you, how about this? I think we can maybe table that one for next time, because I'd just like to be clear with the city attorney's office, and then, again, our,
Yeah, okay.
just the other staff, and be sure that, I mean, the biggest thing is that we're trying to monitor is that we're not having a quorum of HLC members. So I recognize, again, there have been commissioners who have participated either as a HLC representative or a member of the AIA, and just so that we're kosher from a Brown Act standpoint,
Perfect.
I can come
Okay.
back with recommendations.
great, thank you. That would be great.
And Chair Grumbine, I had
Yes.
one other question
Sure,
too.
Commissioner Ansberg.
Arts advisory, so that is not, is that something that we normally?
I was going to ask the same one.
Okay, well, then I'll let you.
No, that's, yeah,
Yeah, what,
keep going.
do we not have sort of a liaison to Arts Advisory, or?
So I guess my question for the commission is, I would say that if there's, how has it worked in the past in terms of, we're racking our brains trying to understand when this would come up, and if there was a specific project, then you could assign liaisons at the time a project came through, but wasn't really sure if there, and because oftentimes the public art in public places, if it is in an HLC jurisdiction, they always come in for a courtesy review. So the entire commission has a chance to ask questions, not necessarily, or comment, not necessarily.
Could I ask
making a
Commissioner
decision.
Drury, because he was for sure on it.
They haven't publicized their meetings. I don't get anything from them, and
Oh, actually, I'm not sure if your mic's on.
Excuse me. Yeah, they haven't publicized their meetings, at least not to me, and I don't have any connection with them anymore.
There hasn't been, what I'm understanding from this paring down is that basically they're wanting to pare down all the things that aren't actually meeting every year, at least every year, or more
Well,
frequently.
they're eating also, but they're meeting whenever. And
Sorry,
I don't
our
know-
subcommittee for that thing.
Yeah, and
So-
I don't think there's any value, at least not, I think, as you said, Ms. Kokinda, when there's a project that will come to us anyway, that's when we can weigh in, but I don't
Okay.
think.
So there hasn't been, over the last couple of years, you haven't been going to
No,
stuff?
I have not.
but as an HLC? Okay, great.
So
That's-
yes, part of it is a cleanup measure to, again, if, I couldn't think of any examples of instances where there was a liaison, and the same thing with the Street Tree Advisory Committee. I mean, unless there was a specific question to to our HLC landscape architect. But it's not to, in the future, if there's a particular piece of public art that is within the EPV that has a lot of public interest, and it doesn't mean you can't establish a working group or be a liaison or report out to the HLC on certain things. And but I just, again, I think for the purposes of like what is a committee that meets, or like what is your to have a clear definition of what your role is. And
So I would say the one other one on this list that raises a question to me is the design awards, because that does seem to, at least, and Commissioner Uli, I think, was on it, and Commissioner Mahan, and that it was at least, this seems to be one of the ones that actually has met at least somewhat over the last couple of years.
And I also think it is a function of
Yeah.
HLC.
Yeah.
So that one, and maybe I was just incorrect when my assumption, and I was thinking that it was for the plaque, or, the creation of the plaque, but that's.
I think we used them for that, but I think
Okay.
that was also one of the
Got
things
it.
of like, we had a functioning group that did awards, so then when the plaque thing came, we used them for that, but otherwise, we were also looking at, Commissioner Mahan would bring stuff and also.
Let's
Commissioner-
go ahead and appoint someone, and if I get a little slap on the wrist for that, then I'll come back
You
and
can
let you
say
know.
HLC made you do it.
Through the chair.
Yes, Commissioner
So,
Lewis.
so you're going to agendize a matter so we can talk about this in a little more
I think-
detail next time?
It might be the best if you want to just keep it clean. I mean, I think it's nice to go ahead and have the consent reviewers established so that we know, who's going to be there.
And then we can just
But
have
we can,
other
we can do
subcommittee.
another subcommittee discussion
Can we form a
afterwards.
subcommittee to study that?
That seems
and,
to be right along the effort.
I think-
But my suggestion would be that under item G, when we list subcommittees, that there would be standing committees, those committees that are somewhat permanent, and ad hoc committees that come and go, so that it's clear to the public which ones are standing and which ones are not. Because I agree, the ad hoc ones have a specific time. We're studying, a plaza, and when it's done, it goes away.
Absolutely. I like the suggestion, and we can easily do that. And I guess, Mr. Chair, one last thing, I recommend if we do consent, if we at least appoint that, and then an alternate for the sign committee. I do want to point out that we, this year, for the first time in many years, it seems, that we actually have a 3-person sign committee. So the council appointed 3 members. So 2 existing, Mr. Sorgman and Mr. Limon, and then Jonathan Ziegler, who used to serve on the SFDB. So I highly doubt that, if you all are thinking of volunteering, you might not have too big of a role, given the fact that there are 3 members, but it's, we need to establish an HLC alternate.
An HLC alternate or an
I should,
HLC appointed?
it's,
'Cause Commissioner Drury is appointed, and then Commissioner Vice Chair House is the
I'd be
alternate.
happy to do that.
Okay, so you just need an alternate from HLC as a sub to come in when those 3 appointed can't make it.
Exactly.
Okay.
It allows, it created some flexibility when when the sign committee was dissolved and then it came back, but it gave us a little bit more flexibility because of recruitment. We had some real challenges with that.
Yeah, okay. And I wouldn't trust Mr. Limon very much in
Not
terms
at
of
all,
knowing the
not at
rules. Okay, great. So Commissioner Drury, you're up for being an alternate to
Sure,
it.
that'll
So we
work.
don't need an alternate to the alternate, right? We just need one?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I
not
think
this time. Okay, great.
If I get desperate,
So-
I'll start asking. but-
Okay, great. One more piece I think I wanted to add on regarding consent. So we had Commissioner Butler as the alternate in terms of landscape. Are you still up for doing that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we'll keep you on for that. All right, anything else that we should discuss this? I know we're going to be agendizing a later item to discuss it with some of those comments, but otherwise,
Yes,
do we need a vote?
Chair Granville.
Yeah.
I am currently not on any committees, because when I came on, then it was determined that this would be the time when we would be discussing it, the early part of the year. So just keep that in mind. Maybe we can discuss it at the next time it's been suggested, and just know that I'm available.
Okay, great. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of stuff to volunteer for, and along the way, especially ad hoc committees. And as well, we'll talk about it, about the objective design standards and roles and all those things as well. So that'll be good with the agendized. All right, do we need to vote on this, or since it's appointments, it's just appointments and we
I
move on?
think they're just appointments, and
Okay.
we've got verbal confirmation, and we'll be able to update this roster, and then again, update it again after we have our future subcommittee conversation.
Perfect. All right, thank you. All right, thank you all as well for your volunteering for these. Okay, so let's close item B and on to item C, public comment. Any member of the public can address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within our jurisdiction that is not scheduled for public comment or for public discussion. Is there anyone that wants to talk about anything but on the agenda? Okay, not seeing any to virtual.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. If anyone participating virtually on Zoom would like to make general public comment, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Not seeing raised hands for general public comment, and we did not receive any general written correspondence either. Back to you, Chair Grumbine.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll close public comment. On to item D, approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting December 21st, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Chair Grumbine, I had a couple of comments. if
Okay,
I
do you
could.
want to get a motion first?
Oh,
so we
okay,
can-
yes, I'll move.
Yeah, and then I'll go to you for the comments. All right, thank you, Commissioner Ensberg and Vice Chair House. So for edits, Commissioner Ensberg.
Yes, on, under announcements, number 2,
Okay.
let's see, I don't have the actual copy of it here in front of me, but item 2, I just want to suggest that we delete the word feelings.
Well, let's wait until we get it up on the screen. 2023 started with a technological collapse.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Whoa, whoa.
If I could only read my writing. Yeah, number 2.
Oh, thoughts, feelings, and suggestions.
Yeah, I think maybe
We
just
don't want
thoughts.
feelings?
I think feelings aren't really what we do.
Aren't relevant. We don't care about your feelings.
Yes,
Deeply about it.
yeah.
There's a song for that.
That's right. Okay,
Okay.
thoughts and, well, let's strike feelings and thoughts and suggestions. That's
Yes.
fine. I'm sure our feelings will come out in our thoughts and suggestions.
Yes, since we're being objective.
Yes, that's
Okay.
right.
And then also on item 5, I just would like to suggest that we reverse the order and put number 3 as number 1.
Number 3. Number 1.
Item 5. Number 3, in general, the commission feels much better, just that general
Oh, yeah, in
statement.
item 4, in general.
Oh,
no,
is it?
That's right.
Okay.
Sorry, that's not right. Never mind.
Number
5
3,
is pull
put
the
number
mouse
3
in.
as number 1, and then the rest, just because that's the
Oh,
more
number
over-
3, got it. Sorry,
Number
sorry, sorry.
3,
Yeah,
Yes.
switch 3 and 1. Yep, that
Yes.
sounds good.
Okay.
In proper order.
and that was all I had, thank you.
Okay, any other edits? All right, hearing none, can we have a roll call vote on the meeting, on the minutes?
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll take the roll call vote. Commissioner Butler,
Yes?
Commissioner Uli,
Abstain.
Commissioner Emanuel,
Abstain.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Abstain?
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes,
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, on to item, close item D, on to item E, approval of the consent calendar for December 21st, 2022, and January 18th, 2023.
Yeah, Chair Grumbine, at the last hearing, there was a vote on the 12/21 consent calendar. However, when we reviewed the video, there was actually not a seconder. So we just need to
Yep.
have a
Technicalities,
motion
yep.
with a second and another vote. So that's why that's agenda is today, if we want
Okay.
to just run through that.
Sorry, my bad.
Mr. Chair, I would
You missed
suggest
it.
the motions are separate on each item.
Okay, so let's start with, that sounds good, let's break it apart. So for December, approval of consent calendar for December 21st, 2022, let's start with that. All right, motion by Vice Chair
I'll
House,
second that.
second by Commissioner Jordan. Under discussion, any discussion? Isn't changing from last time, correct?
As if we remember what was
Yeah.
on there.
We all voted for it then.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll take the roll call vote. Commissioner Uli,
Abstain.
Commissioner Emanuel,
Abstain.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Abstain?
Commissioner Ensberg,
yes,
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Move to approve consent calendar January 18th,
Second.
2023?
2023.
Just in
As
case
if,
there was
as
a-
if there was some confusion what
Had to
January
go
we're
with 20,
in.
found out from a year ago. All right, and Vice Chair House to second it, thank you. All right, under just, I guess to staff first for summary?
Sure, I'll run through it. Item A was for 1950 Las Tunas Road. The action was, the item was continued 2 weeks, back to consent with some comments. Item B was for 1014 Santa Barbara Street. The action was for project design approval and final approval. Item C was for 40 East Anapamu Street. The action was for approval of the review after final approval request. Item D was for 1250 Cliff Drive. The action was for approval of the review after final approval request. And item E was for 1720 Bath Street. The action was for project design approval and final approval with a condition on the roofing material. I don't know, Commissioner or Vice Chair House, if you want to go into that one or not.
Vinyl?
Cedar, yeah, vinyl, cedar split shake roofing, fire treated.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. And so to the commission, any questions or discussion of the consent calendar from today? Nope, seeing none. All right, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll take the roll call vote. Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Abstain on item C and yes on the rest.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Abstain on all of the items except for item D.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so let's go to item F, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals. All right.
Thank you,
Ms.
Chair
Brooker.
Grumbine. I do have a few announcements. First, just to let you know, Commissioner Lenbeck will be absent from today's meeting. I also wanted to let you know that a State Street discussion item will be agendized for our next meeting on February 1st. Item 6 of today's agenda, which is for 1002 Anacapa Street, will be postponed 2 weeks to a date certain of February 1st at the applicant's request. And then also I have an announcement from our architectural historian, Nicole Hernandez, to let you know that the African American and Black Historic Context Statement is being recognized with an award by the Santa Barbara Trust for Historic Preservation this Saturday.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
And Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, if I may
Yes,
add,
Ms.
so we
Oquendo.
did agendize the State Street meeting for your next meeting, and staffers Brian Bossy and Jason Harris will also be here in attendance
Great.
to be able to field any questions that the commission might have.
Great, thank you. And could I also ask that all the documentation of the guidelines for the current stuff is sort of make sure we have it available so we can kind of walk through or talk through it and all.
Absolutely, I can
Okay.
make sure that we send that in advance for you.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right. Other announcements, et cetera, from everyone? Yes.
I have,
Commissioner Ensberg.
Yes, Chair Grumbine, thank you. I just wanted to let everyone know that the airport design work group that has been meeting, I think we maybe have a couple more meetings, met on January 11th at the Airport Administration Building and had a really good input there on this very initial work that they're doing. And there will be another meeting next week on January 25th.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, any other reports? All right. In that case, we'll close item F on to item G. Since there are no subcommittees anymore, we have no reports.
You're welcome.
No, any subcommittee reports?
Mr. Chair, we
Yes, Vice Chair
do
House.
have a report on the Plaza de la Guerra
Yes.
because Chair Grumbine and I met with this subcommittee, or whatever we
Yes.
call it.
Super sub.
What is it, the pavilion, or what do we call that building nowadays?
Yeah,
That thing.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
De La Guerra Plaza Pavilion thing, yes.
So I
We
think-
didn't just meet, we met and we met.
Yeah, we met,
It's
met,
been
met, yeah.
half-
So,
whatever, half a year
strides
less.
were made. There is something that we feel is more acceptable, and it's time to bring it to HLC to get feedback from all of you. And we also reviewed a current proposal for the landscape and hardscape design on the Anacapa side of City Hall
We have a meeting coming up on the 25th, is that correct?
of,
Of this month?
oh, I don't remember.
Do you,
Something-
do
I
you
don't
guys
know
have
when
it
it's
as the
been
De La
scheduled.
Guerra?
Yeah, it's
Subcommittee?
It's the, sort of the art part of it.
Okay. Oh, great.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'll
Super.
report on that next meeting.
As part of the Arts Advisory Subcommittee?
No. No.
Okay, great, thank you. That sounds good. Look forward to hearing about that. Okay, and then, let's see, any other subcommittee reports? Okay, hearing none, let's close that item. Item G, we're on time. Wow, all right. And now, did I hear it right that it's the last item, 1002 Anacapa, that got postponed?
Correct.
Got it, okay. Okay. All right, so let's go to item 1, which is a new item for concept review, 400 West Carrillo Street. The project site is located in the Pueblo Viejo Landmark District, Part 1. Proposal to construct a new 63-unit residential building. The project includes at-grade surface parking and garage parking, as well as additional amenity spaces such as common room and courtyard outdoor space. The units are proposed to be 100% rent-controlled, moderate income, 80 to 12% AMI? Might be yeah.
Maybe 120.
Let's make sure that typo gets changed otherwise. And middle income affordable, 120 to 160 AMI. The project calls for the removal of 8 king palms, 1 jacaranda, 15 tipu trees on the property. No street trees or trees within the flood control area outside the western property line will be removed. No final appealable action will be made take place at this meeting. Project compatibility findings will be required for project design approval. The project was last reviewed June 8th, 2022 on a pre-application. All right.
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Drury.
So
And
that pre-application was simply a courtesy review, is that correct?
it was a one-time concept review,
Right.
so it hasn't been reviewed by staff, planning, deep dive at that point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Chair Grumbine, I do have the minutes from that meeting.
Yes,
if you
I think
want
that'll
to
be
see
helpful,
that.
and then,
I need to recuse myself for conflict of interest with the owner and applicant.
Okay, we'll see you on the next one.
Chair Grumbine?
Yes.
Also,
Commissioner
just to
Ensberg.
report that I did review the previous 2 hearings on this project, so I feel that I'm prepared to address this.
Yeah, great,
Wouldn't
thank
even
you.
be necessary since it wasn't, it was a pre-application review.
Well, I
But
like to
it-
be
yeah, but it's-
especially
yeah.
prepared.
She's superstar
Do I
prepared.
get extra credit?
Extra points, yeah, the bonus
You
points,
get a
yeah.
gold star.
That's right. And it also does help from having repeat conversations. So thank you for that, for reviewing, and thanks for letting us know. So let's go to the minutes, and then along those lines, anyone that was not here, if they have not reviewed it, it sounds like you could still review and comment, but there are also, obviously, we've made a whole bunch of comments, so we're getting them on direction, so. All right,
And
Commissioner.
Chair Grumbine, the case planner, Megan Arciniega, is also here, and she'll give an intro to the project as well before we get
Perfect.
started.
All right, so why don't we start with the minutes from last time? All right, so, so the commission comments were the commission appreciates that the applicant has looked at the comments from previous meeting. This is an improved design, especially in terms of mass, bulk, and scale, and in general is supportable. The stacking of the Monterey double balcony over the arcade is not yet resolved. The general massing and open-air aspect of the elements are successful and help the building feel less massive, but the elements still need more work. The stair tower getting up to the roof is still too strong, and as proposed is a tower against another tower. Oh, I see. Is a tower against another tower. The composition is not there yet. The other corner where the project steps up from 1 to 4 stories needs more massing work. The composition is too much like stepping stones and needs further refinement. Keeping the building away from the freeway is appreciated. Regarding parking, the applicant is applauded for being a good neighbor and for caring about the neighbors. The landscape design is very important and in general is going in the right direction. A few commissioners noted that there may be some quieter and less joggy solutions. That's joggy is a real architectural term. To look at on the west elevation and and Castillo Street elevation. In terms of general comments regarding the site plan is appropriately sensitive to the neighborhood. The massing is also sensitive. The general relationship to the site is found to be supportable. The architectural and landscaping language in general is supportable. The courtyard in general is supportable, and the majority of the commissioners feel that this element can be appropriate for this building. The setback in general, there's a lot of generals, setbacks in general are appropriate in terms of the way the building steps back from the street. All right, so with that, if you could, I know we're going to go through, get an intro, and also, but as you're describing the project, talk about what you changed and how you changed it and the thinking behind it, and then also addressing those comments from last time as well.
Thank you. Chair Grumbine and Commissioners, my name is Megan Arciniega. I'm the project planner. So as you already established, this is the first review by the formal board of the formal application. Your prior review was done under a pre-application, which is a benefit to the project because they've been able to work on the design. So we're encouraged to hear your feedback. The project will be going to both the Planning Commission and City Council. So because of the density proposed at the middle and moderate income levels, the project requires a development agreement approved by City Council. So that's where our processing steps come into play. We would like your feedback before we proceed to Planning Commission and City Council. Also, your commission is looking at the tree removals because this is HLC jurisdiction. They're parking lot trees, obviously. So we have provided the arborist report as part of your package. Ensured the arborist has reviewed the tree removals and is comfortable with them. The project isn't replacing one for one or like for like because there's so much oversaturation of trees on the site just because of the layout. But we do feel like the landscape plan is providing a decent amount of replacements, but we'd like your comments on that as well. Just in regards, because of that, we have policies that we need to describe for the Planning Commission and City Council how the project does or doesn't comply with policies relating to trees replacement and removals. So if your commission finds that an appropriate replacement and layout, that would be important for them to know. If there's any questions regarding process or the units, I'm also here for that. Again, we're also along the Mission Creek setback. We've been working together with the Creeks Division, and flood control was even involved regarding the setback from that. There are elements of the project that will require waivers of the Mission Creek setback itself, and then also other waivers that are requested, or concessions rather, that will be wrapped into development agreement regarding open yard. It's really setbacks, open yard, and height. Setbacks, open yard, and height. So those will be part of the development agreement, but your input on the appropriateness of the design and layout, site setting, tree removal are all appreciated. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. All right, so with that, why don't we go through, you'll have your 15 minutes to walk us through your design and presentation, and then we'll go from there. All right.
Chair Grumbine, Historic Landmarks Commission. My name is Rob Fredericks. I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of the City of Santa Barbara, and we are excited to move this development along. It is very much needed for the community for affordable housing at those income levels that were described to you. And I don't want to take up any more time from our architect, Christine Perrone, or our landscape architect, Courtney Jane Miller, but I did want to say that what was mentioned in the minutes about being a good neighbor and ensuring that the development is appropriate for the site and for the neighborhood is important to us, and those were some of the design decisions that have been made. So thank you very much, and we are excited to get it moved to Planning Commission and City Council. Thank you.
Chair Grumbine and Commissioners, Christine Perrone, the architect for the project with the Cornell Collective. I'm here with
Courtney Jane Miller, landscape architect.
Thank you.
Thought you forgot her name for that.
I know. Thank you. I'll try to be brief with this. I know you've all seen it twice under concept review, but I think it might be good to take a moment just to review the site plan and the design of the building. Oops, and I have to remember how this works too. Sorry.
Yeah, the PDF, I think was
Is it Control Zero?
Controls Z? No, it's
To
Z.
zoom, yeah,
Just
just
zoom.
Z key, and then
And
draw a
then-
marquee around what you want to.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, there.
So the building here is shown in the white, and then there's tuck-under garages that do have garage doors that make them look appropriate with a lot of massing around them, plaster massing. And then we have the perimeter site surface parking that is largely in the same place as the existing. And these are some of the Mission Creek 25-foot setback encroachments that we will be requesting as a part of the development agreement. And that will be going to Planning Commission for their support and advisement to City Council for support. And so here you see this one blue line. That is the 25-foot creek setback. And so we do have these encroachments of the surface parking that largely replicates what is there now for parking. And we felt that it allowed us to provide the parking that was expected from us from the neighborhood at a 1-to-1 ratio with the units. So we have 63 parking spaces to the units. And we also oriented it so that we could preserve as many of the perimeter Tipuana trees as possible. So you see that here around the perimeter that helps to buffer the visibility of the 4 stories as you get onto the freeway. Also helps buffer the residents from the freeway. And then we also kept these Tipuanas in place as a buffer between the project and the more one-story single-family residence. So that's the one improvement that we're looking for. The other is minor. We're going to keep the existing fence line, but we do want to, for security reasons, add a fence line right here, chain link fence. And that is technically in the setback, and so we do need to request that as a waiver for the development agreement. So I just wanted to clarify what those were that we would be asking for. I'm just, yep. What's the zoom out, the zoom
Control 0, I think.
Control 0? Oh, there's.
See, I learned from earlier today.
And I'm not going to go through the floor plans, but I'm happy to if you'd like. I'm just going to go through the changes that we made from the last review, and those were excellent comments, and we really appreciated them. It made a better design. I do want to point out the other reason we're here is we've gone through our first city department review and have largely vetted this throughout with all the departments. And so we feel like we're in a good place now. We've made changes that we needed to coordinate with all the city departments and major changes. So we feel that we are kind of teed up for moving on to Planning Commission once we are deemed complete. And so we are here today to ask from you as compatibility findings and a couple other waivers that I'll review in a second. What you'll see here is we did really massage that tower. That was this was a kind of a larger block here, and then this piece of architecture was not as pronounced. So what we did is carved away at that stair tower. So we now have kind of a cascade of roofs that go from this higher point down to this 3-level, down to the 2nd level. And we think it's a much more successful design. There was really good comments about what was our initial study on these kind of Monterey wood balcony elements. And we have studied that. And what we did is we kept these posting all the way down. We added detailing like the corbelling that you're seeing here. We added a little bit more kind of plaster bands to start to develop this. We do want to keep the rafter ends simple, either a blend cut, kind of in keeping with the Monterey style, or at most maybe a quarter round. And then what we did is change this one to a cantilevered balcony style, Monterey balcony, so that they read together, but they're different. And then we also started to break down some of the arch tops here, the openings in the plaster wall. So these had all been the half round And now we've kind of broken these down into some different languages, a little bit different identities as we walk down the elevation. And then there was a comment here, this had been a roof element, so it had been a 1-story, a 2-story, a 3-story, a 4-story, and I think that was the stepping stones comment. And I completely agree with that. What we did is we took the roof across and made this a 3-story element that has a deck above as well, so it is punctuated with openings, but I think reads better as an element. And I don't think we had any significant changes along Carrillo and no comments from the commission from before. And then the comment here on the west elevation, this is facing the freeway, was I think some of the board members wanted to see it simplified, and we did look at that. There was a pop out here that we eliminated and simplified, and I think there was another one over here that we simplified. So it reads a little bit more smoothly.
Less joggy.
Less joggy, but it's adorable.
Yeah, see, we should have kept the feelings in there. I think most of our comments have to do with feelings.
And finally, here you can see that this, I do like and have kept this 1-story element. This is for the trash, but it keeps things at a pedestrian scale, so I did feel that was important to keep. But this is where we filled in what had been a 2-story piece so that we read as a 3-story with just a large perforation on the corner. And so if I go to the 3D views, here you can see definitely that kind of cascading roof feeling of these stair towers. And here you can start to see a little bit more embellishment and changes as this wood element has been developed. I think those are supposed to be quarter round. Those will be quarter round rafter tails in the end. I don't think they're shown correctly. And again, this was, I think everybody was fairly happy with this elevation on Carrillo. And this again really just represented how little with the existing Tipuanas will be seen of the building facing the freeway. And here's that entry on the north side with the balcony now on the upper floor. And just looking down the street, and I think this kind of helps show that cantilevered Monterey-style balcony on that elevation. And I think that was a lot of the changes those were the changes that you requested and how we've approached those. And I think the other thing we wanted to make sure we picked up was early on, we talked about a waiver for the parking design. And you were supportive of it, but we wanted to get it in the minutes for the Planning Commission's benefit. And you'll see we have, I think it's 6 parking spaces and then 9. And that was done to save this Tipuana tree right here with even an overscaled island planter. And the commission had been supportive of that, and if you still are, we'd hope to get that in the minutes so that we can bring that forward to the Planning Commission. And finally, we'd like to talk about story poles. We have presented quite a bit of 3D modeling. We did do an animation around the block, and we'd be happy to bring more animation as we move forward, but we would like to have it considered adequate in lieu of story poles for this project. It is an expense when we build those animation models and all these 3D models, and it would be a benefit if we didn't then also have the expense of the story poles. So that's the other request that we are asking for you today, is compatibility findings, the parking lot landscape waiver, and the story poles. Thanks. Oh, yeah.
Just go to my page.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll just try to be quick in 3-4 minutes. No, that's okay. We don't have much to review actually because we haven't made too many changes since the last meeting. The main one is that previously along the west, or I guess northwest corner of the property, we had a pet park, which is technically within the Mission Creek setback. So we tried, but Creeks Department considered it an intensive use, so we unfortunately had to remove that. And in lieu of that, we'll just have, beautiful native landscaping in that area.
With no pets allowed signs?
We'll see.
Say no more.
Right. And then the other thing I just wanted to go over quickly, if you could go to the page before this, I think, or just find our tree protection plan. Just because it's another thing you'll need to go back 2 pages there. Another thing you'll need to make findings on, I'm not sure if that's today, Megan's saying yes, regarding the tree removals. So I think the commission was largely, okay with this previously, but just so you have the information at hand. So we have 44 existing trees. We'll be removing 24 of those existing trees, and we're proposing 26 new trees. So we actually do meet the 1-for-1. And there may have been a little change there. We might have added 1 or 2. Of those 24 removals, 15 are the tipu trees, which are those large canopy, very densely planted trees. This property is very similar to our police station project where we had the same condition. These trees should never have been used for parking lot trees. They're really, they have horribly invasive roots. And so they're lifting the pavement everywhere, and it's really more of a problem. And so, yeah, we feel like, with the new project that we're definitely within the bounds of, what you'll need to make findings on. And I just wanted to mention too, I learned a new word. Super adequacy, which apparently the arborist has used in his report to describe how the tipus are arranged on the property. It means excessiveness. So the idea is that, what does he say here? They're crashing the computer.
All items have been pushed 35 minutes.
Yeah. Anyway, so because they're so densely planted, it reduces the functional benefit of each individual tree. So that was something new I learned. Super adequacy.
Try to be super adequate.
Right?
Just adequate. All right, well, luckily we didn't have
Well, that
any
concludes
more-
my presentation.
Looks like it. Luckily we had no more visuals to look at, hopefully. And you had paper
there we are.
plans in case. That's good. All
But I'm
right.
happy to answer any questions or go through anything
Okay,
in more depth in the questions.
great.
Barbara, our
Hope so.
monitors have not come back up.
You're looking at my screen now.
I see.
Switched over to this laptop.
Okay.
All right, so with that, since your presentation is complete, we will go to public comment. So any member of the public wishing to comment on this item in the room? All right, not seeing anyone, we'll go to virtual.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. If anyone participating via Zoom would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Right now, I'm seeing 1 raised hand for Steve Johnson. Mr. Johnson, I'll go ahead and send you a unmute request. And you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Can you confirm that you can hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the commission, I have 3 points I'd like to make. Just for the record, the structure, the project is far less dense than state law requires. The 63 units proposed is modest compared to the project at 418 North Milpas, smaller size, less than an acre, which is proposed at 90 units. And if a commissioner could ask the housing authority why they have settled for such less dense project, I'd be curious to hear. I'd also like to see the commission get some give and take on the trade-off of a taller structure. I think that would be less massive. A height of 75 feet is actually allowed by state law, and it's likely that Santa Barbara will be seeing such structures in the coming years. At least give it some consideration. It definitely would improve the on the mass of the structure. Another way to stop or mitigate the mass is to move the structure towards the freeway. The previous review was reluctant to do that because of noise and pollution, but all the windows on the freeway side are going to be non-openable except in emergencies. It can be as close to the freeway as you'd like and not make an impact on noise or pollution. And a final point is issue of the restrict area. Mission Creek is based on what I believe is a faulty determination of top of bank for this location. I'll elaborate on that at a different meeting when I have more time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, any other public comment?
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll give one more opportunity to raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Seeing no more raised hands, we'll go ahead and close Zoom. And then we did receive written correspondence from Steve Johnson and Tatiana Cruz, which was distributed to the commission prior to the meeting. Back to you, Chair Grumbine.
All right, thank you. Okay, so to the commission for questions.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Drury.
So sort of piggybacking on Mr. Johnson's comments, so I just wrote down, in light of the recent storms, how high did the creek get at that location, Mission Creek? Did anybody go look?
You know, I didn't go look, but I never saw, if it was cresting that bridge, we would have seen.
We would have known that.
We would have
yeah.
seen that. So
Okay.
if it's
I
not,
can, oh, go ahead. I can weigh in on that. I live a couple blocks away, and it was very much lower than the top of the concrete.
Okay.
It's because it's channelized there, so it wasn't anywhere near it. I don't
Okay.
know exactly.
Thank you.
but-
And the other question I have is there any, what are the mitigating factors for freeway noise, which is going to be constant? Actually, Carrillo and the on-ramps and the freeway are noise machines, so what have you done, or how will that protect the?
yeah, great question, thank you. Well, it is going to be required that we'll provide windows facing that direction that will have an STC rating, a sound transmissibility rating that will keep it under 50 dB inside of the apartment. That will be required. The wall assemblies as well will also have to meet that criteria so that when you're inside, the sound won't migrate and you can keep your windows shut. And with that, there will be requirements for the mechanical equipment to make sure that it can exhaust and keep fresh air in that room. Yeah.
Okay, so my last question is, the gentleman who commented from the public said that the windows on the freeway side will not be opening? They don't open?
I think you're allowed to open them, but it's then the occupant's
Yeah,
option to
I'm
keep
just
them shut.
thinking of
Yeah.
ventilation from the west wind. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
there will be quiet times, we hope.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are my questions.
All right, other questions? I'll piggyback a question onto that ventilation question. Is there, and obviously this is early on, but has there been thought as to where your intakes and exhausts are in general for mechanical for this?
It's thoughts, what we expect to have happen here is this will all be the mini splits per unit. So those are the small little package units that'll go on the roof. No big equipment. We don't have any large community rooms or anything that would require that. I think even the garage, we may be able to look at naturally ventilating that with the garage doors, and we'll be coming back to you with that. So at this point, I think anything that is going to be ventilated will go up to roof. And as we develop it, if it's visible, we'll certainly house that in some kind of chimney traditional architecture.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Butler.
excuse me, there are some concerns expressed regarding the increase in traffic, particular to that intersection, I think certainly pertinent to commute time. Have there been any changes since we last met to either access or egress from
It has remained the same, where we're using that existing driveway curb cut for in and out access, and that's the main one used. And what we did do is eliminated the one off of Creo, and this is unchanged from before, to eliminate that problem they had with cars queuing to get onto the freeway, and then people trying to get across to get into the parking lot. So that was how we really improved that condition there.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure that anything changed.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Great. Other questions? All right, well, let's roll into comments. So there are a couple of key items to address with your comments, as well as anything else you want to address. So the trees, appropriate replacement and layout, if weighing in on that, what you're seeing here. Setbacks and, I guess, tie a question to it. So let's just make sure we're clear on all these things that we are weighing in on for the setbacks. So it's setback from the creek for parking, is that what the,
We're meeting the zoning setbacks. So anything, if there's concerns about encroachments into the Correa or Castillo side, we're consistent with that. It's mainly the encroachment of the parking. Did you want to speak, Megan? Sorry.
yeah. So we make sure we have the right verbiage and we're talking about the right thing.
I don't think we have setback encroachments. There's a Mission Creek development limitation area along Mission Creek. And so, but development includes even parking spaces. So there's a minor encroachment of parking space and fencing along the parking spaces that require a waiver. That's the encroachment. I don't know that.
For some reason, I wrote down
comments.
setback, open yard, and height. Those were things that needed to be weighed in on. But maybe I was.
I think that we were using the 25-foot creek
Yeah.
setback as a confusing term.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, gotcha. And then open yard, what was the,
So open yard, it doesn't meet the black and white of open yard requirements because you're not allowed to use parking lot landscaping as your open yard for the common on the ground level, 15%. So when you net out those portions, it doesn't exactly meet it. So that's where the waiver, but there's also alternative design waiver for open yard. Sorry, mixing those two things up. It's not the landscape, it's that the open yard doesn't meet AUD open yard standards. So they're incorporating that into their development agreement, that the open yard is appropriate. So
and where, can you show us, point to the open yard that is the, or what is being considered open
So
yard?
what we would need from your,
Formerly known as dog park.
yeah, what we need from your commission is that the open yard provided common and areas is appropriate for the development or not, from an aesthetic and usability standpoint.
And so, to the project team, what are your arguments for why it works and suffices to make up for open yard space, or to make up from the standard?
Okay. Thank you, Chair Grumbine. We believe that the courtyard that we kept from the prior design, the long and slender, actually provides quite a bit of opportunity for outdoor living. And some of it is provided in ways that we can't technically include, like this area here is actually undercover, but you can see Courtney's team did a great job of including, what games?
Yeah, ping pong.
Ping pong tables, and other uses such as that. So we have opportunity here that technically doesn't meet the requirements, but all adds up to a very livable site.
Yeah, and I'll just add in, we looked at this pretty closely in the first couple of meetings because there was some concern with the narrowness and oops. This is one of our recent projects. It's still in construction in this image, but similar dimensions. And we feel like it's very successful. But the other thing I want to mention too is just because of the nature of the location of this property and how the building is arranged and where the parking needs to go, having the open space situated in the middle of the building, I think is preferable to any other solution because of the noise and the proximity to the freeway. So that to me is the most important part.
All right, great. And then the height was the other thing. Was there a height?
Yes, and let me refer back. We had discussed this at the prior meeting, and it was a design element that just barely clips over the 45-foot height limit. And this is a raking back roof, so it's really just a small wedge that encroaches, but it gives a little bit of interest there with that one roof going higher than the adjacent. So I believe that the commission was largely supportive of it as a concept level.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so, okay, so now that we have clarity on those, and so if you can comment on those in your comments. One more item, actually, I realized I need clarity on is the chain link fence extension. Do you have photos of that area? I'm just trying to understand how much you'll see from the road, what you'll see from Carrillo especially. And like, as you're coming and you're going to turn on the freeway, what do you see of that corner?
It is in the So right, you can see the chain link here. I assume we're going to have vine growing on that, but it's showing where it's proposed.
Where it is. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
wasn't sure
it's-
the elevation of everything.
It's just that small bit spanning between the building and the west side of the property. But we're lucky we do have a pretty deep landscape planter there, so I think it'll just disappear.
Okay.
Excuse me, that's in front of that big arched door, is that correct? Coming down Castillo?
No.
The little yellow-ish car is going towards the freeway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can we
Okay.
see that on the plan? Where that fence is?
So for security, it's being shown right here, connects to the building. So it's right here. And so that is 5+ feet, probably close to 70 feet away. Plenty of opportunity for landscaping.
Okay.
Commissioner,
Great. Oh,
Chair
yes.
Grumbine, I just want to also add, transportation staff was encouraging or supportive of blocking off even pedestrian traffic in that area to avoid people pulling over on Carrillo and dropping a delivery, a person. They just want to encourage the access, discourage access on that front.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, okay, so then the other areas of discussion are the story poles waiver, whether or not you're supportive of that in lieu of, given the three-dimensional models, and then any and all other comments you have based on the design. So if you go,
And that, sorry, just that, maybe you set up at the parking lot landscape waiver.
oh yeah, okay, so parking lot, I did not, parking lot landscape waiver. Okay,
So we're rolling into comments.
rolling into comments with those especially.
Mr. Chair, I have
Yeah.
some comments.
Yes, fire.
And I'll start with some very general ones, but I'd like to note that last fall, the Housing Authority received a very prestigious national award for both the quality of the architectural design and the quality of the social spaces. So that inspires, for me, a lot of confidence in this scheme. I do think that the central court is a very intelligent use of open space, given this site's proximity to 101. In terms of story poles, I could certainly support not requiring story poles. I think they're most useful to when the properties are immediately adjacent to other buildings, and you really are trying to understand what that relationship is. That's not really the case here. This is a corner situation, and I think that the animations and the 3D modeling is pretty good in terms of explaining stuff. I'd also like to note this is 63 units of affordable housing. If we were using the alternative approach of private development and inclusionary rates, we'd have to be building over 600 units to get 63. So I think this is a tremendous win for the city, and given the quality of past efforts, I'm very supportive of this project.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Drury.
I concur with those very cogent comments. I think that what you've done in terms of good faith with fixing what we thought were drawbacks, joggy or not, I think it's a very, very attractive building. I love the interior courtyard. I think it's a win-win all around. Thank you.
All right. Who else wants to go?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair House.
I also agree that this is a good use of this property, and the Housing Authority has high standards, and I think this is going to be a very nice building. If we could go to the Castillo Street elevation, just a couple things that jumped out at me. Just do that left end. Yeah. It just strikes me that piece to the right of the corner, there's numerous towers, but the corner tower, and then is that a stair tower, that taller thing? That, yeah. Okay, so the short piece that's abutting that, sorry, I can't point it. Yeah, that one there. It just kind of bothers me that that roof line is aligned with the railing, and it almost bisects the taller vertical element in half. And I think it would be,
If you're which railing? Look at that.
Yeah,
Lines with the ground floor.
yeah. And to my eye, it would be nicer if that were somewhat taller, halfway up the columns of the patio up there. And then if we go to the opposite elevation, well, actually, the Carrillo Street elevation. The elements that are breaking up that roof line there, I think, are very attractive, and I think that might be a better solution on the freeway side elevation where you have that over the 45-foot height situation. And because I think it's attractive looking, I think more attractive than the break in the roof line. And, it would be a consistent detail around the building. So that would be my preference. As far as story poles, I've always felt that it's not necessary to have story poles that indicate every corner and roof line and hip and ridge, et cetera, et cetera. And I proposed on another project that we reviewed at Chapala and Ortega that we just highlight the corners of the building, because besides understanding how it relates to other buildings, it's clearly expressed in the ordinance requiring story poles that it's for the public's benefit as well. And so I think, that can be served without a huge amount of expense by just pretty much, even if that corner tower were defined with 3 story poles, it's a notice to the public, because not everybody's going to go online and look at elevations and 3D models and stuff. So I think there's a benefit to that. What other things should I comment on?
Trees.
Trees?
The trees,
yeah.
I think, the forest is wonderful, but that was specific to a parking lot. And so I think that the loss of the trees is appropriate, and you've certainly mitigated that with replacement trees. And the parking lot landscape waiver I'm fine with that. Anything else?
Those are the main ones.
Okay, I'll leave it
All
at
right.
that.
Oh, and the height, the height thing, you were saying do a different solution?
Yeah, that would be my preference.
Okay. All right. Others? Other comments? Anyone else want to jump in? Yep,
I'll
Commissioner Early?
take a stab at it. I largely agree with most of the comments offered by other commissioners. I'm okay with the tree removal plan. I think it's consistent with providing a nice project. I don't have a problem with the parking or fence encroaching in the quote creek unquote setback. Really don't see that as an issue. I'm okay with the open yard or the lack of open yard requirements needed for the project, as the courtyard, I think, will be a successful element for people to use. And granted, not everybody's going to use it, so it probably won't be crowded. I'm okay with that little piece of roof popping up over the 45. I doubt that we'll be anywhere where we could see it. So, I don't think that's an issue. I do agree with the vice chair that story poles are not necessarily for our benefit or the commission's benefit. It is for the public's benefit to realize something is going on. Because although we might like to think that we have a high rating on the HLC show, I think
one listener.
I
and they're
think
not even
there's only
watching.
one or two people who tune in on a regular basis.
Every time you say Mass Balkan
and-
scale.
So
Is that the drinking game? Nice. All right. Wow.
So-
I didn't know that existed.
that's what I feel about it. So I doubt that they'll really spend much time reviewing the models and the materials that you bring to us to review, which I believe personally are very helpful. So I would suggest, at the very least, what the vice chair suggested, and that is identify the extent of the building and the highest points. I think I got everything.
All right. Are there any other commissioners want to comment? Commissioner Ensberg?
Sure, I'll go. Thank you so much. I think this is a wonderful project, and I commend you for the work that you've done. It's very complicated, and how you've pulled it all together is really admirable, and thank you. Since I was looking at all this stuff before, I sort of had a few different thoughts that I wanted to share. And one is, I really appreciate the courtyard. I think it's super important, and I'm really thrilled that it's there. And I think that the occupants will use it. And I appreciated the image that Courtney Jane showed us of this previous. And I just wanted to point out the simplicity of that, and maybe just offer to think about how simple that paving is. And to maybe it could be more simple. I'm always looking for ways to get as much as you can and not have to spend more money. So also, the other thought I remember from one of the previous hearings, how you were very, very thoughtful and careful about the setbacks on the Castillo side, and that you went even further than what you had to do, and that there was potentially that it might be a what do you call it, attractive nuisance, and that Courtney, you mentioned how that would be mitigated by landscaping. I just wanted to throw it out there as something for you to think about. Certainly not any kind of requirement, but if you had wanted to make the courtyard a little bit bigger, perhaps you might consider reducing that setback on that side a little bit if you wanted to pick up a few more feet. I certainly wouldn't object to that, and I think that might be.
Sorry, just for clarity, so can you pull up
You
the
wanna go to
site
the
plan
plan?
and just make sure that,
We're talking the same thing?
Basically extruding it to chew up some of the.
Yeah, toward the Castillo side, where you gave a generous amount to try to be very, very sensitive to the people on the opposite side of the street, and you went above and beyond. So I'm just recalling that conversation, and I was just wanting just to throw it out there that if you did want to capture some of that space, maybe you could just
so you're basically,
move the building, not the entire building, just that one part over a little bit so that you could put that space on the opposite side into the courtyard area.
basically like the top two apartments, sliding them page right
Yeah,
a bit.
a
To get,
little bit, whatever you
to
want, but
get more on the
just-
backside for the
For the courtyard,
For
to
the
just
courtyard,
increase
got it.
that courtyard area, since you were, as I said, you were talking about that. So that's just a thought, and let's see. These are kind of random, sorry. But could we look at that, the rendering of the Carrillo side? You can see you have a couple there. Yeah, one thing I was wondering about these cutouts, where you have the lattices in there, and I'm not sure, are they really necessary or essential? To me, they're not. So again, as and others may feel differently about that, but I certainly wouldn't object. And one of the things that I've been kind of harping on lately is when we have these residential situations, then we have people living in these units, and they oftentimes will have surfboards or, various things that they put on the deck. And so if we don't have as much transparency through, it can sort of help from below and for the comfort of the people in the
Just
units.
for clarity, what is the material that is right now being proposed?
That's a stacked terracotta roof tile.
Yeah.
Stacked okay, gotcha.
But are you talking about the balconies above?
Right here. Well, I'm talking about these, the tile.
These ones that
And
she's
then,
pointing at right here?
also, I guess if it was a Juliet balcony, it wouldn't be as relevant because you wouldn't have much space to put anything out there. But if it is a real balcony, maybe think about of another way to make it more solid.
So along that line, I think, tied to that comment, because I was thinking about something similar. The other side of the balcony, not the Carrillo side, but the Castillo side, that has more like wrought iron and more very open balconies, and actually some that are bigger. It's probably the Commissioner Ensberg from meetings past that was making my mind think the same thing. But there might be a challenge in screening that, and so that becomes a question. And I'm trying to think where. Oh, I guess it would be your stacked Monterey balcony. Yeah, if you could zoom in on that.
You're talking about the Monterey balconies?
Yeah, the two-story on the Castillo side.
Right.
Yeah, right there. There we go.
Those, and just to jump in
Yeah.
For discussion, obviously, when you're facing Carrillo, you've got a lot more traffic, and so I wanted that to be a little bit more solid, not a railing. I also think the massing is more successful that way. I had it solid in the prior commission.
Yep, fair enough.
Well, I'll leave that then, but just,
And then thoughts on the, and I don't know if this is even divided, it's a little unclear. Are those balconies, the Monterey balconies, divided into individual things, or are they all one sort of common balcony?
They'll have a railing splitting them in two.
Okay.
So that it won't be a wall or anything, but they'll have separate use
Separation
spaces.
space, got it, okay. Okay, and if I can steal one more bit of your time, Commissioner Ensberg.
Sure.
There may be a solution, I would say, as a suggestion to study wrought iron, but, and I know others like Jeff Shelton or will use a more solid iron work, and that might be worth looking at of a little more visually screening iron solution, if there is, a way of doing that, because I do think that your materials are really nice with the wood and the iron and the plaster, but it might be a way of trying to screen some of that surfboards and.
yeah, like a laser cut steel or
Right.
some kind of cool design like that. I think you could do something really cool. But, and just to finish, sorry. Also, on the encroachment for the height, can we go to that elevation for a sec? Okay. I don't have a problem with it, but I also don't have a problem with just lowering it down and having it go straight across, even though I guess you did this because you were urged to do that. But again, for me, I like just the simplicity of it just going straight across, if it were me. And then on the, to the other side, to Castillo again back to my kind of no new steps idea. I would just voice my view that having all of the different arches, you designed with 3 different types there on the first floor. I would be perfectly fine and probably like it better if it was just all one. Just pick one and go with it.
Me too.
And I think that makes it easier for construction and everything else, so that's my opinion. And then finally, I promise, the one part that I'm struggling with is that corner with the outdoor patio covered deck up there. I just kind of don't see how that really would get used. And I don't feel, I would suggest, I think it's, I think it works aesthetically. It is rather, large. It creates this large piece at that very prominent corner. I keep going back to, how the site is now and how it is very wonderful right now because it's just this big tree place. So I really like how you have surrounded the property with the trees and kind of kept how it is now, which I really appreciate. It's this one place here, and then it's also on the, around the corner on the Carrillo where you have the palm trees. There's probably some really good reason for that. And I'm just wondering if those could be canopy trees also instead of the palm trees to give more. But if not, it's just a thought that I had and that came around as I was thinking of how it is now and how that changed and how the palm trees really don't give any privacy or shade or anything really. They're romantic, but so I just throw that out. I'm not, and that I'm struggling a little bit with that that roof unit and the whole prominence of this piece. So I think that's all of my comments. That's probably enough.
Let me throw that, take that one of those comments, just to put it as a question a little bit, because I can't remember if there was discussion about it. But was there, to the landscape architect, Ms. Miller, was there a tree canopy discussion at one point versus palms, or what was the design intent or thought on those, on the palms?
Thank you for putting that back to a question. Yes, the palms proposed along Carrillo are the designated street tree for that block. So they're only proposed within the parkway, which is another improvement actually along that block. Right now the sidewalk is curb adjacent, which is not safe at all. So the sidewalk will be moved, we'll have a new parkway, and there's existing palm trees within it, and then we have 3 new proposed. We could pursue, a new designation for the block, and we're happy to talk to Parks about that, but this is just what's, goes along with the existing trees.
Okay.
Mr.
Great.
Chair.
All right, Commissioner Gordon.
Just want to add a comment, and I'm very sensitive to the challenge for you when you're getting multiple comments from multiple people. But I just want to say that I very much like the emphatic architectural treatment of that Carrillo Castillo corner. I think it's very architectural and very strong urbanistically. And it's a beautiful lot now with all the trees, but it's not going to be that lot in the future. It's going to be a building, and I want that building to be very strong urbanistically on that corner.
70-some feet tall.
40, you can make a statement at 45.
That's right. Any other comments, Commissioner Butler? I don't think we've heard from you, but we do need to move this along, so I'm going to...
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Lots of great feedback. Love it. Happy to see it. We need it. Do more. Lots more. You've heard, and I would support the general consensus. One thing stuck in my head, and it's just because of the recent rains, was drainage, because that's a lot of parking lot, and I know it's a parking lot today. So just that's going to be something to be cautious about, obviously. But to keep it brief,
No, but
It's a great project. Love the design. Looking forward to it
All right,
becoming a
yes.
reality.
Mr. Chair?
I would just like to add, I do share.
I'm gonna have to just.
Oh, yeah, Commissioner Drury, we'll go, Mr. Commissioner
Oh,
Drury
I'm
first.
at
Thank you.
great risk here because I'm going to disagree with my esteemed colleague. I like the idea of color in the facade on the Correa Street side from those balconies. I think that's a really important thing. And I think that the three different types of arches are also good because, as is often said, variety delights. And I think that would be I don't like the idea of all those arches being the same. I hope that I survive the meeting.
Do you want to, shall we move you?
Yeah, you switch with Commissioner. Yeah, that's right. Vice Chair House?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to add that I share Commissioner Ensberg's feelings about, not feelings, thoughts about railings, and that, you know, it's important to attend to the detail of not seeing people's stuff there. And where you have the iron, that's the most difficult, perhaps, because they're the most transparent, but, you know, a 2-inch or 3-inch spacing or heavier members or something like that will make them feel more substantial and also help with that. And then where you have the roof tile inserts, I think that's a function of depth, how effective that is. So if that's at least 12 inches or something, I think that, you know, only from straight on would you see stuff through there, so.
Okay, great. And then I'll throw in my last 2 cents. I agree with the.
No, we're out of time.
Yeah, we're out of time. Moving along. And I'll try to summarize and also try to capture some of the disagreements as well, or at least so there's not only one direction as we go through the other pieces. Actually, the only other comment I wanted to add was to the caller, and because I think it's very relevant as we are now and where we are going. And I would there's a couple comments. One was the height. One was the setback from the streets. And I think, and one was the amount of units. The amount of units is, that's a question for the Housing Authority and those. It doesn't go in our jurisdiction. It's a mass bulk scale, and now everyone can drink. But the, now that I know about the drinking game, but the setback from the road and the height are actually exactly what we don't want to do. Not that tall buildings are bad at the right size, at the right height, but the question is what is the appropriate scale for this? And I think the architect's done a great job, and the landscape architect and everyone has done a really great job with this project, making it feel still like when you look around Santa Barbara and the best of Santa Barbara. And this is a major corridor, but this is not the heart of the city. So that these should not be the biggest buildings in the city. And by going up these massive scales, you are taking away from actually what a city is, a good traditional city, and Santa Barbara is an exemplary of it. And so then you'll end up with, in the setback as well, you want buildings that actually are appropriately addressing the street and addressing their neighbors as well, and the street character. And I think this has done a great job with that by pulling it forward, and that's really important as well, because otherwise you're walking by a giant void. And so with that, we have enough of LA in Southern California. We don't need more of it, so I think we want to stick to where we're going with this project. So.
Running for city council.
No, but that's my only comment. It has nothing to do with your design. So with that, so this is not coming for us for project design approval, but we do want. I'll try to summarize our comments, and then maybe we can get a motion.
Oh, and Chair Grumbine, I'm
Yes.
sorry, the compatibility findings, if you feel it's appropriate at this.
Okay, yes, sorry, yes. Project compatibilities will be required for project design approval. So we can kind of give a little initial run at them, but this is not for project design approval, right?
That is correct. So we don't need them to. No, what we typically ask is that if you provide any comments that inform the Planning Commission and City Council of the consistency where the project is going, that's helpful. But you don't need to make the findings today.
Okay, sounds good. So we can comment on those, and I think some of these will also comment on them. So let me try to give a shot at summarizing what were our comments. So I think we are finding, and actually I'd make one last comment that was not made, which is I don't think the chain link, even though it's going to be covered with vines, I think you should go to wrought iron for that strip. of some sort. It's very public and right there. So even though it's going to get covered with vines, it's, yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah, and then when the vines die in the drought, and you'll see a beautiful wrought iron railing. Okay, so that the one comment to add. So in all, first we'll start with the zoom out. We are thankful very much for the applicant who has done a wonderful job with the beautiful design, and that's very much going in the right direction and very supportable. The mass, bulk, and scale in general is found very appropriate for the site, for the neighborhood, and for this building in particular. So we are the majority, well, I guess all the commissioners are in supportive of the parking as proposed. The open yard, I heard all supportive comments about the open yard solution for this project. Regarding the story poles, at least as several commissioners, and I feel in the same way, feel like it is appropriate, especially for the corner building, corner of the building, to be on Carrillo and Castillo, to be put up as story poles. I guess let's kind of pause for a second and take a temperature. How are people feeling? Is that enough? Is the tower element enough to give notice and show the height on the corner, or do people want something more? And
Was there a suggestion we're going to go to the end of Castillo Street, the north?
It sounded like it from one comment, but I'm fine with just the Carrillo Castillo corner.
I would support that.
I'm fine with
Carrillo, okay, is that, okay, enough to get the public to realize what the massing is on the corner, and also the project that exists and is coming.
Chair
Is that
Grumbine,
correct, what I just?
could you clarify which tower element?
The tower on the corner of yes, that tower element, elevation of Castillo, and far left on that elevation.
And I think that should be accompanied by an image of the building. Perspective.
With what-
identifying what those story poles represent.
Yeah, because
Yep.
the canopy is going to shroud most anything you put up
Yeah,
anyway.
that's true.
Right? So I don't
Yeah.
even know, that's right, yeah.
On
do
the
what you
corner,
can.
they might be able to get it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, that sounds good, and then also with an image showing what the story poles are representing.
Had to cut the
And
tree
question?
with the story poles.
That's right.
I have one question about that. So the image will show the entire elevation?
Yeah.
Yes.
So they won't think, oh, this is just a building on the corner?
Yeah, I think it'll probably be in perspective, maybe.
Okay.
Because that'll be even more helpful for people to understand.
Yeah, so the entire project will show, but this will just be
Yeah.
detailed there. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so if that's sounding good, then do that for story poles. The parking lot landscape waiver seemed supportable. The height, while there was one commissioner that was looking at a potential other solution, so that's on the record to potentially study the solution from Carrillo Street, applying the roof condition as a solution for the height of on the freeway side of the 101 side of the building. I think in general, most others were okay with going beyond the height, and I would be supportable as well. So it seemed like that was at least supportable. Let's see, the three arches on Castillo, now, let's see if we should get into the weeds yet. Let's see, we got story poles. We got the courtyard, the central courtyard, and it was also let's add to the open yard space that we found was supportable as the internal courtyard, and also that we found that this was a good solution, especially considering the existing site and protection from freeway noise and pollution for the residents. And then, let's see if there's any other bigger ones. Okay, I think those were the majority of the big ones, and then we'll now go into some of the weeds. Okay, so let's say, story pole. Okay, all right, so on the Castillo Street elevation, the second story. Okay, yes, so next to the tower on the Castillo, the far left tower on the Castillo Street elevation, the two-story element, study raising the roof height on that. We'll just leave it general like that. On the, let's see, let's see what else on this one. Oh, the three arches on this one, on the Castillo Street elevation. There was a split between the commissioners on whether there should be unified arches or not. I think it's actually consistent with all the drawings that we have behind us. So some of them have similar arches, some of them have vary their arches. So I think there's definitely a split there, with some feeling that the differentiation of the arches is actually a appealing element.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
wondering if I couldn't ask the vice chair just a clarifying question. On the roof that aligns with the railing of that front tower, I would suggest that it just simply be studied, not necessarily raised.
Well,
but
I think
but
that
just
you did say study raising it.
Yeah, my point is
Might be a little
not
lower.
raising it. It could
Yeah.
lower or change or
Okay.
just study so
Yeah.
so that
Study
it
the
doesn't
height.
align with the railing. I
Okay,
think
that
is more.
sounds good. Let's change it to that. So it's just study adjusting the height of that two-story element, roof of the two-story element, so that it does not align with the floor of the third
I
story.
think that's more specific.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's see. Also study on this elevations, on the Castillo Street elevation, study the wrought iron balconies and the visibility, potential visibility of elements that will eventually be placed on those balconies so that they're screened. So the screening, I should say, the screening of the balconies in wrought iron. Yes, Commissioner.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. These things come to me as you say them. I think also the applicant should explore prohibiting the storage of things on the balcony versus having the architecture morph to try and hide something, because those balconies are elegant the way they are, as the way they should be.
Yep, the Housing Authority does enforce not having clutter
Oh, okay,
or
great.
storage on the balconies for items.
Okay, awesome. So it's just those evil private developers.
Chair Grumbine?
All right, yes, Commissioner Ensberg.
Could I just add to that, that I also feel that for the use of the person who lives there, if they want to be out on their balcony and they want to have a glass of wine, they would like also to be protected from below. So I think that there are solutions. Yes, these are beautiful railings. We have them all over town. But just, this is a different, we haven't had this housing before. So that's the only reason I say it, is that I think there are some great ways, creative ways that could be done to screen not only from below, but from above, so that you
Okay,
can
yeah, so
enjoy your
let's
space.
keep it as a consider screening for privacy. Yeah, okay, great. Let's see, we talked about the story poles, talked about landscape, right? And, I had one comment I forgot to make, but I'll just throw it out there as well. On the Castillo Street elevation, the far right corner element, the three-story corner element, I think that you've adjusted it. I really like how you've been adjusting it. The only thing that seems a little bit odd now is the overall width span of that. It seems a little wide, and I don't know if aligning that plaster wall with the plaster wall below as an opening, or putting another post in there, wood post in there, but the span seems to be getting wider than your other spans, and it just feels really wide. And so maybe study the width of that opening.
And once again, it's 50%, 50%. So if it were not just even
Yeah.
proportionality.
Yeah, so just maybe study that corner, third story balcony, or not balcony, but deck, covered deck. And then, let's see, I think that was, did I mention the chain link fence portion on Carrillo to go to wrought iron? Let's see, anything else I'm missing? Oh, sorry, look at, there was from the landscape comment for the internal courtyard, I think, is look at potentially simplifying the paving. That was a comment for simplification. So look at that. Any other comments that people want to add?
I had one,
Yes.
Chair Grumbine. Is it appropriate to include the option to reduce the setback on the
Oh, yes, I
Castillo
forgot
Street
about that.
side if they choose to do so to
look at
to make it better
Yeah, to look at
for the courtyard?
the last two units on the north side of the building, sliding them towards Castillo.
Well, I think it's the one on this elevation we're looking at. You've got that center portion, so it's the pieces on either side could come forward, perhaps.
Look at in plan maybe, and just so we're confirming. Are you saying the ones with the 4 arches, the 4 square arches and the 4 round arches?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And
Okay.
it, again, this is just to give you that option.
Yeah, study those elements and whether you can slide them forward a bit to increase the internal courtyard and getting closer to the street. Okay. Any other comments?
I guess Chair Graham, I just want to be very clear that this is for, to benefit you. That if it's not, if you come back and you choose not to do it, then that's fine, but just to give you that possibility.
Okay. All right. Noted as a suggestion, but not a requirement. All right. Anything else? There's a lot of comments there, and very good project. All right.
This is a concept matter. Does it need a motion to forward to Planning Commission?
No, continuous.
Or
I'll make a
continuance?
motion to continue this to the Planning Commission with the positive comments made.
Second.
All right.
I assume that was a motion.
It was a motion.
We have a motion and a second under discussion. Any discussion? All right. We have a roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll take the roll call vote. Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
and then Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Perfect. Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, excellent. Well done. All right, so, okay, we are on to item, we're running late now, sorry. We'll pick up our pace. We have item 2, 2310 State Street. This is.
Deny the next project, that'll speed things up.
Yeah, that's right. You only have 2 minutes to present. All right. So this is a new item for project design approval. The project site contains the designated structure of merit, the Ritchie Bungalow, proposal to construct a new 367 square foot accessory dwelling unit, ADU, above an existing 390 square foot 2-car garage, and to construct a new 12 square foot utility room attached to the western side of the garage. The project is associated with an existing single-story, 1,500 square foot single-unit residence. The project would result in substantial redevelopment of the existing non-conforming garage. All right, and there is a historic significance report. And project design approval is requested. Project compatibility findings are required.
Mr. Chair.
All right.
I have a question of staff. Obviously, we're not reviewing the aesthetics of the ADU, nor just the 12 square foot addition to the garage, but we're reviewing the garage because it was being demoed and rebuilt. Is that
Correct. The project results in a substantial redevelopment, so we tend to look at it as a new project.
okay? So even if the garage was identical to the existing,
Correct, correct.
Okay.
So, and I do also just want to mention to you that the garage itself is not considered a historic resource. The primary residence is. That's why we included the significance report, but the garage is not a resource.
thank you.
All right. And just for clarity, because it's also an ADU, do we have, what can we
You can
review?
review
What can we
this-
say?
This ADU.
What's
Yeah,
that?
this ADU is here for design
Okay,
review.
because of what it trips. Okay, so it is here for design review. Okay. All right, so with that, do you want to present?
Yes.
Introduce yourself for the record, and then you'll have 15 minutes to present, but you don't have to use the whole 15 minutes.
Great. Okay, I'm Jarrett Gorn from Vanguard Planning, and this is another ADU we're doing in a architecture, a historically significant structure, and we always like these ones. We actually do. So anyway, let me just start with a quick overview in the neighborhood. So this is an aerial photo just showing you where this is on Upper State Street. This is the part of State Street that has the median. Here we are zoomed in a little bit further. This is the garage in question, and you can see in this photo it's right next to a structure that I think it was a carriage house. I'm not sure if this is used as a garage or not anymore, but you can see a similar size structure with a high-pitched roof also right on the lot line up next to our garage. This is just what State Street looks like in the area. This is the house, I guess, just uphill from us on State Street. This is our house. A very cool, unique house. I haven't worked on one that looked anything quite like this, and it's in beautiful condition, both interior and exterior. The yard's fantastic. It's a very cool house to be able to work on. This is looking up the driveway of our property, so that's the view from State Street if you could stand there and look straight up the driveway. This is the next house down, the one that has that interesting, I don't even know what style of roof that is when you see the material on it. It's sort of this curvy shingles.
Joggy.
So these are the houses across the street from us. It's a nice Craftsman, another little cottage. And that's that interesting roof. There's an alley or a private driveway of some kind that goes behind all of the properties, and that's the next door neighbors. And our garage is set back, I think, like around 8 feet or so from this back property line, which has pretty significant hedges developed along it. So when we build the second story on that garage, it might come up into like this corner right here of that view. So that's the existing garage, not historically significant. It was done, it's compatible with the house. It's interesting, it has this little bump out on one of the bays. I always wondered if that was tacked on later or when it was done, but it actually matches the slab inside the building. So if it was tacked on, it was done a really long time ago. It's been there. This is the side view of the garage from in our backyard, and you can see sort of the existing landscape theme we've got going there, and some really cool ironwork that's back there. And then this is looking down this is the space that is in between the back of our garage and our rear property line. And on the other side of that property line is that alley. And then it's just another picture that just gives you a better overall view of that garage that we'll be adding the ADU on top of. Our next door neighbor there. And then this is looking down at the house. And then this is looking down our driveway from the garage to see that side elevation of the house, and then just some photos around the house, and that's it for the photos. So what we're doing here is, let me find these elevations. These are the existing elevations, and we showed all the way through the adjacent structure just to give you the sense of scale and proximity here. So that's that existing garage. That's a little pop out right there. And then here's what this looks like from the back. And then this is the side elevation of the garage. And then this is our yard side of the elevation with that adjacent structure beyond. And then the ADU is going to sit right up on top of the garage. And do you want me to blow up these to see it a little bit better? Let me see, rather than blow up.
Enlarging might be better.
Yeah. Okay, I will enlarge. It's funny, I'm in an architecture Facebook group that, like, if you type blow up or something, they actually like ban the comment because people thought it was like hate speech or something. Yeah. So let's see here.
You hit Z and then you.
Yeah, here we go.
Or that. Yeah.
All right. So just some quick background on this. When we originally designed this, we had designed it to match the existing footprint of the garage below and go all the way over to this property line. And we submitted a pre-case for the setback modification that was going to require, and staff, they enthusiastically did not support that. So we pushed back a little bit. We asked Nicole Hernandez about it also, and she said, no, it's pretty typical for structures like this to develop organically. They wouldn't necessarily always match. And so we decided to trim this back over here and meet the required ADU setback of 4 feet. And so as a result, we don't need any modifications or anything with this project. It does need to come here because we are substantially redeveloping this garage, so we're not going to demolish it and rebuild it, but there's some pretty significant structural stuff going on, so it is a substantial redevelopment. So this is the driveway facing portion, and this is the remainder of the little pop-out that's down there, and our floor plan follows that pop-out and brings it up, and we just thought the best thing to do here was match just the little small shed roof they have on there with 2-piece Spanish tile. And then on the parapet detail, if you noticed on that bungalow, the main house, they've got a really interesting detail where they have these raised corners, but then they've got this inset sort of, I don't even know what you'd call it. I'm not an architect. But we intentionally decided to make this simpler than the house. We always look at these ADUs as we want them to look subordinate to the house, and we thought picking up on the corners that the house has worked, but we want to just have this be a simple straight across parapet. So I'd like your comments on that. I'll show you the other elevations too. We do have 3 others. This one here, the windows are all going to be simple wooden double hungs to match what's on the house. The house has more divided lights. We're keeping these in simpler, larger panes. Here's the 2 existing doors. This actually is not a drafting error that the staff likes us to show as setbacks on the elevation. So this line here isn't in our design. It's just showing where the setback comes. And then it's looking up the stairs, going up to the entry. So this is the elevation which faces our yard in the back, and we did this sort of solid stucco wall stepped design going up the edge of the stairs to hide the handrail behind it and provide opportunities for like pots and things to sit on these flat surfaces and spill over. And then this meets the railing height up at the top, and then that's the front door. And again, just, you know, really simple windows on that side, and you can see here where we're matching that pop out. That's the back elevation, and so this is where the stair landing is. Not a whole lot of windows back here. This cantilever's slightly out over the garage, which just gives us the couple extra feet we needed to get a usable floor plan in there. And then this door goes into a small utility closet that's under the stairs where we'll put the water heater. We have to do tank water heaters again now. With the new codes, we can't do the little the on-demand ones that we stick on the side. So we're having to look for places to put closets on these projects now, and we didn't really have a good space inside the unit, so we put it under the stairs. And then this is the elevation that faces our neighbor and goes up against that property line. And so this is the existing silhouette of the garage or the section of it, and then here we are up above it. So that's the side of the pop out, and then again there's just this one little window on this side that actually goes into a bathroom. So and then we do, like when we have to do cantilevers on things like this, we usually like to take like a solid wall down the side of it rather than putting like a post or just actually having it sticking out as a cantilever. We just think it makes a better looking elevation in this kind of a case. So that's really everything I have, unless you want to look at floor plans or something, but that's my presentation.
Let's take a look at the floor plans too. I think that would be
Okay,
good.
sure.
And is that true? You have 67 pages?
There's a lot of photos and things in this too. Yeah, we did a 67 page. We bill by the page. Let's see here. All right. So this is our ADU floor plan. Is that, yeah, that's readable
there we
up
go.
there.
Okay.
So we used an exterior staircase, so we weren't having to spend our floor area budget on stairs. And then here's the main entry. We like it when we can get these nice diagonal sight lines across from an entry in a small unit. Just makes it feel bigger. We got sort of a small wall here to create some privacy for the bed, just a simple 5x8 bathroom. We have these two small windows in it to get light and air, and it's actually going to be a pretty nice bathroom. And then there's space over here for like a two-top table, or and then space to furnish this out as a living room in here. So pretty simple floor plan, smallest kitchen we could do that fit in there. We always like to have a window over the sink if we can, so that's the window that you see on that front elevation over the garage bay. And that's why it's off center, is because, whoops, I always keep doing that with the thumbnails. It's off center because we need to leave enough room here to have a counter. So that's the floor plan.
All right, and maybe zoom out and just kind of flip through the images a little bit more.
Control 0.
Okay.
There we go. And maybe just flip down through the rest of the sheets real quick. So
Yeah, okay. So, not sure what this one is. Oh, roof plans. So, yeah, we have the lower parapet roof and the upper parapet roof. These are existing elevations. These were the proposed. We went through some sections, more sections. This shows the stairs and how the water heater fits under there. And then we have all of our structural calcs. So that's what all those are.
It's going to be an expensive ADU, isn't it?
It's got a lot of structural involved to keep that existing garage where it is, but it's in a really nice place.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be pretty expensive per square foot because it's small.
To the photos of site photos.
Sure.
Class. And of the house itself, really.
Yeah, there we go.
And then
So that detail I was talking about, oops.
Just hit the Z key and do a marquee around what you want to zoom in on.
So just Z,
Yeah.
that's the detail that's on the house. So it's got this sort of cap on it, and then I guess this part here is flush with the plane of the wall, and then this part here is inset from that. And I haven't really seen this anywhere else. But and there's a similar detail on the garage. Now it's like they tried to copy it. But we're intentionally simplifying that.
And then do you have other side shots of the house?
I think you can see the side elevations. Let's see. What was it? Control Z gives you the plan.
Control 0.
Control
To get out of
0. So here's the back of the house.
Okay. Yep.
With that same detail on it. And then this is the side that faces the driveway. They have a similar little shed roof bump out on the house too. And the other side, I don't think there's a whole lot to see. I think we do have a picture of it. Here's another part of the back of the house.
Chair Grumbine, I also have some photos in the significance report if you wanted to.
Yeah, I
flip
think
through that.
I was thinking about those ones when I was, but I think covering most of them here. There we go.
Yeah, so those are all the photos we have.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, I think that was that one I was looking for. Okay, great. All right, does that complete
Yeah.
our presentation? Thank you. All right, we'll open public comment. Any member of the public in the room wishing to comment on this item? All right, not seeing any. Can we go to virtual public comment?
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. Anyone participating virtually who'd like to speak on this item, please go ahead and raise your hand. Not seeing any raised hands, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item. Back to you, Chair Grumbine.
All right, thank you. All right, to the commission for any questions? Any questions on the project? One quick question regarding elevation and windows. What were you looking at for sort of size and proportion of your windows? Because you had mentioned that I think you were looking at kind of doing it the same as the house, the wood painted window. And I guess in particular, the more horizontal tending ones, like that one, was there a house window you were looking at, or were you just trying to get it to fit in the space?
Chair Grumman, we were trying to match it to the floor plan, so we weren't super specific about picking proportions of windows. We had the floor plan, we picked sizes of windows that matched up with the functional spaces in the floor plan, and yeah, there's this one horizontal window. The rest of them, I think, proportionally are pretty similar to the house, but again, minus the additional divided lights.
Okay, gotcha, thanks. All right, any other questions?
Could we see a picture of one of the windows on the house with the divided lights?
Sure. So, what was it? Z and then
Just Z, yeah.
So there's these ones in the front which are really unique, and I don't think we would be copying those on ours at all. And then there is just a standard divided light front door and side lights. And then if I can go over to one of the side elevations.
Well, they're actually showing,
Yeah, I'm just trying to find.
45 is showing basically.
Yeah,
what you're
so
proposing.
this is the back side of the house, so they have their divided light door and just a double hung. And then here we've got that kind of window.
Yeah.
So just double hungs. Yeah, so
They
they're
have a
just
little lug in the
pretty
corner.
pretty typical double hung wood windows, except for those really special cool ones on the front.
Okay. Answer your question? All right, any other questions? All right, let's go into comments.
I have one question.
Oh, okay.
Is there, thank you. Are there any, the little window that's in the bathroom that's next to the adjacent property, are there any issues with that with respect to the property line? Of having a window that close to the property line?
Chair Grumby and Commissioner Ensberg, there aren't. It's set back 4 feet, and you can have a certain percentage of your elevation with penetrations in it and
Okay.
not run afoul of fire code.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And it doesn't have to go to 70s glass block. All right, any, there we go. All right, to comments.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair.
Could you go to the front of the garage elevation? First, let me say that I met with a previous owner, I think it was a previous owner of this project, of this property, so I'm familiar with the house, and it is really wonderful, and the garage is a challenge, I respect that. I think that that does not work compositionally with the solution of keeping that pop out all the way up the second floor. I think it would be more successful if the existing pop out roof, that eyebrow, extends across and then the second floor is all one flush plane. Or find some other solution, but you know, what I'm seeing right there is just not compositionally working. If we go around to the stairway side, yeah, I think the windows there are a concern largely because the pair of double hungs in the middle are too horizontal in their aspect ratio. And if it could be a pair of that one on the right instead, something like that, you know, just to be consistent with the house. I mean, it's just kind of a jumble of different things going on that elevation. What is the thing to the left of the entry door?
I am not sure what that is. I'm not sure what that is.
Okay.
I don't think it's mechanical equipment or anything. Let me look at the floor plan and see if
'Cause I don't remember
we
seeing
have
it on the
anything like
plan.
there.
Maybe it's a drafting error.
Oh, wait, there's something there.
There's a receptacle.
Yeah, I think this is it's a panel.
Oh, electrical
Yeah.
panel. Okay.
And that's really the only place we have for it,
Yeah.
other than some wall in the house. One of the reasons why we did stick with a higher sill here was for the opportunity for there to be a table or something placed up against it and have the sill be higher than the table.
That could still work, but the window should be more vertically oriented, so it could be 3 of them or something,
Okay.
like, but as long as the proportions work.
Okay.
All right.
Otherwise, I think you've done a great job, and I think, it'll be a nice ADU.
All right. Other comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yep, Commissioner Uli.
I have a clarifying question for staff. Technically, the only thing under our review is the exterior stair addition to the garage. Is that correct? The ADU is not under our design purview.
The ADU is, it has a cantilever in the back, which kind of bumps it out of being an administrative review. It's not allowed to. If you stack it on top of a garage, and it's 100% on top of the garage, then it can go through administratively. But since they have that cantilever off the back, it,
Well, that's good news, I suppose. Good news for us.
Yeah.
Probably not for the applicant.
and then there, because of the substantial redevelopment, we are also looking at the garage itself, even though it'll be largely as it is now.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
All right. Minus one of its eyebrows got ripped off. Okay, other comments? Commissioner Hendrick?
Chair Grumbine, yeah, could we look at that front elevation again, please?
Sure.
I really understand the challenge you had here. It's a crazy building with that one garage projecting forward. I see how challenging this is. And I was having some of the same concerns that Commissioner House mentioned. But then as I look at the front of the house and then I look from the street, it has sort of a quirky feeling about it that somehow seems to work, I think. And I'm wondering if maybe you could massage it a little bit, like if the two windows, the 4 there, yeah, the 4 panes, maybe if there was an awning there. I noticed that the front of the house has a black awning on it. Of course, stripes are always good, but I'm just kidding. I'm just making a little joke. Anyway, maybe that could help, by putting, maybe if you add another element in and certainly maybe some lighting around the garage doors or somehow just keep working it, you might be able to get it to work because I think that there's a certain, like I say, a kind of a quirky quality to it that somehow does seem to work for me anyway, with the front of the house. And then the other thing I was going to suggest or ask about the front door, was there a reason why it's not a French door? You have a solid door there. I think a French door would be really nice there if that would be appropriate.
I think that would be fine. Also, while I have this up again, this is what was driving this pop out here. Yeah, we're trying to fit a usable kitchen in here and still provide a furnishable space for a bed. Otherwise, we probably would have just gone straight across like that.
Okay, other comments?
Those are my comments, thank you.
All right, anyone else want to add? Okay, yeah, and if we can go back to that front elevation, not to keep picking on it, but I think that's your sort of big challenge right now, or your biggest challenge. The other one seemed pretty simple. Yeah, in Vice Chair House, it said running the tile roof across, and maybe you keep the tile above. The other question in my mind, if you do that, is the little piso parapet left behind there. Yeah, and then do you just go straight across with it or something else? So that needs to compositionally, you kind of got to study that a little bit, wrestle with it.
Okay, well, there's an issue with that. And the issue is we're not allowed to increase the height or volume of anything at all in this setback.
Can you drop it?
drop this parapet down,
Or just chop off the top part?
chop off this little corner part here.
The little nub?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We could do
So
that.
maybe that's, it's worth looking at, but because of this little quirky complexity in the corner, and it might be fighting the shape a little bit. I was also thinking maybe of going a swoop up or something else up, a step up, but because you can't increase the height, that's not even an option, so.
We had looked at doing some sort of a step up here
Mm-hmm.
in this corner, but it looked a little. There wasn't anything like that on the house.
That's what I was gonna say. I didn't see, everything seemed to be pretty 90-degree squared off with this house. But yeah, so maybe it is a matter of just running it across and maybe knocking off that little nub. But it needs a little bit more study and help. And then also garage doors need to be shown. And
Oh, yeah,
and are you keeping the existing, or and what are the existing?
Let's go look at the existing. Great.
Oh, it's open.
I don't know. Do we have any that are show it closed? I'm not sure we do.
It looks like they might be more modern, but if they're not nice looking and
Well,
more original, then I
yeah.
think going.
Had that shot from the street. Maybe that shows it.
The one looking up. Yeah, the irony is I'm pretty sure there's a car parked in front of the garage in that one.
I have a very slight photo
Well,
in the
let's see what we got here.
significance report.
I think it's still open.
Yeah,
Maybe they don't even have a garage door.
yeah.
My clients are here. They could tell us what the garage doors are.
Divided like in front of the house, so if you take the very front of the house, they have those small divides and like the big plate glass window, that's what it is.
Okay, and if it's, yeah, so I think that's,
Black, you know.
yeah, that's going to be important to look at as well, especially if you're going to get a new
Oh,
one.
there they are.
Yeah, you can kind of see it.
So they're sort of more like a typical, more modern thing. So especially if you are changing them, I think it would be nice to do something that was more in keeping as sort of a carriage house or whatever. So let me look at that. And then so then I'll take a shot at summarizing what we've had.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
before,
Oh, yeah,
I do
Commissioner
have a
Drew.
comment, trying to formulate.
Sure.
So the architecture of the front of the house, the elevation is really beautiful. It's really subtle. And what it has is these shadow opportunities. And I think that I would like to see at least a nod to that aesthetic in the elevation of the garage. Something to break up that big blank space. Maybe an awning will do it. But I think it's those above that, especially above the front door, that particular, can you roll that down a little bit? The other way. That stuff. This is really beautiful, and we don't know who the architecture is. Architect is that correct?
I think that's right.
Don't know who?
Yep.
I think
None
it's
of
it's none of us, no, none of you. I would like to see some small nod to that, the front elevation in the garage, and maybe as Commissioner Edberg was saying, an awning might do it, but there's something that needs to be. I'd like to see a little bit of energy put into that,
Yeah.
whatever that means.
Okay.
A jog.
Nobody said poetry yet.
There you go. There you go. You remembered.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So,
Charm it up.
yeah, shadow spirit. All right, so any other comments? Otherwise, I'll try to give a shot at summarizing here. Okay, so so let's go to the elevation page. That's where really all the comments were on. So we'll start with, we understand the challenge of this project being the many challenges that are facing this tight space and of fitting this ADU in on the existing garage. And with that, so suggestions for the front elevation, which is, how is it labeled? Let's see, is it southwest? Southwest elevation. To extend or keep the extension of the clay tile mini roof going all the way across above the garage door, to study the parapet wall up and just above it, the portion of parapet wall, with potentially removing the parapet jog, vertical jog. A suggestion of adding awnings over the double or the pair of windows, and/or another way of adding interest and shadow to the front. I think a color rendering of this will help as well with showing some of that shadow. So for next time as well. Regarding the, let's see, it would be northwest elevation. We can actually generalize with the windows in general should be a vertical proportion similar to the house, and to look at some of the house historic windows, the original windows. There might be some that were put in after, but assuming and just making sure that they're the historic ones for proper size and proportion. And on the northwest elevation, the pair of horizontal windows needs to be restudied to get the proper proportion similar to the house. The entry door was suggested to look at a divided light French or glass divided light door. And let's see, I think that was mainly it. Any other comments?
Yes, Chair Grumbine.
Yes.
I just want to point out, because I was really trying to understand this project, and if we ask them to continue that lid across, they would actually have to project the wall out even further to accomplish that.
Oh, I
See,
see.
you see,
I
do you
see.
see? So this,
Maybe I misunderstood. Okay, I'm trying to understand where the planes change.
It's very complicated, but that one, when you look at that, when we were just looking at that other elevation,
So
go ahead.
this is the bumped out portion of the garage that currently has this roof that goes all the way across to here.
Correct.
And this is our proposed bump out to accommodate a usable kitchen counter in the upstairs unit.
So can you for a second go back to the photograph that shows that now?
Of the existing garage?
Yeah, and just making sure we're understanding the wall planes correctly, because there's something I'm not getting here.
You'll get it.
Here. Okay, so that whole existing plane stays, or does it move at all? The one that's already forward?
We're keeping that plane exactly where it is and going up with it.
But they can't alter that by coming.
But we can't make this go forward anymore, and
Okay, gotcha. You can't, I see. Now,
You'd have
you're
to-
losing most of the roof by doing that. You just have a front little lip.
Right. You
I
have
see.
to, you'd have to put a further addition onto the front
Got
to
it.
get that detail
Okay.
again. So that's why they have that challenge. So,
Okay, okay, thanks for pointing that out. I was misreading the elevation drawing as to how it was playing out.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think exploring having the second floor addition on one plane that is at the same plane as the projected lower garage door might be a way to provide some shadowing that the commissioner to my right was interested in, and provide additional floor space, because the kitchen would be square, I suppose.
You mean bringing all of this out to the same place
Yes.
as that? Yeah.
but only on the second floor.
Only on the second
So there
floor.
would be a cantilever, but then
Cantilever
it
on
would
the
cast
right-hand side,
shadows.
yeah.
Yeah, and you could pick up that detail at the front doors of those braces that support the
Yeah.
overhang.
But they
Yeah.
would only be on this half, though.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I think that's a
That makes
good,
sense.
good
That-
suggestion
that
to
makes
suggest.
sense.
So, in the restudy, yeah, so let's strike the comment of continuing the, no,
Study it.
yeah.
We will
let's just say
study it.
Study it, yeah.
Because that lower eyebrow
Yeah.
cannot extend across
Yeah.
the face of
Yeah.
it. It's not on
Right,
the
and we
same plane.
can't even so much as make this
Yeah,
overhang
you can't-
even 6 inches deeper
Yeah,
without
got
a
it.
modification.
That makes sense. And then in that suggestion, in that study, roof would continue also. That, yeah, okay.
Straight across.
Yeah. So the suggestion is to bring out the wall plane of the upper level where the paired windows are to be equal with the kitchen sink bump out as all one plane, and to study that as a popped forward plane. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good. Okay, and then the other comments were on the sides. And then I guess the other comments I already covered from the other northwest elevation. All right, thanks for that additional note that the comment that I was making didn't make any sense. All right, anything else? Yeah, I don't know. Anything else from anyone? All right.
Sorry, but is it okay with the commission, with others, if they study the one idea we just talked about, or if they study what I was suggesting, if they could make the composition work the way they have it with like an awning and maybe a more simplified version, is that acceptable to the commission for them to study as an alternative?
We have to see a drawing
Yeah.
of something.
And
No, but as far as putting it forward,
I think as a
say that-
direction, that seems to make sense, especially with the color study, because color and shadow might change our minds about what works and what doesn't work. So as either of those to study and come back. Okay, either or both. All right, any other comments?
Make it work?
How long a continuation do you need? Continuance?
Could we come back in 2 weeks?
Staff, does that work?
You need drawings in
Yeah, I would need drawings next week, and that agenda is filling up. But I
Okay,
think we can
then
squeeze you in if,
what's the next available one would be 4 weeks?
right.
That's fine, let's do that.
Okay.
I'll make a motion for a 4-week continuance with the comments stated.
Second.
All right, motion by Vice Chair House, second by Commissioner Uli. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll take the roll call vote. Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank
you,
you.
guys.
Thanks.
All right, next up is item 3. Do we need a break? Yeah, do we need to do a little?
And I need to
Five.
leave in 2 hours.
Oh, I didn't hear
I
that
hope we're
announcement. All right, so why don't we take a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back. Adjourn for 5 minutes.
Are you going to get
We're not.
coffee in 5 minutes?
Calling back to order Historic Landmarks Commission. We are on to item 3. So please come forward. This is a continued item, project design approval for 1242 Dover Lane. The subject residence is listed in the city's historic resources inventory. Proposal for demolition of a 200 square foot single story addition, a 90 square foot portion of the porch, and a 56 square foot exterior staircase at the rear south elevation of the residence, or south of the residence, and a 154 square foot covered porch addition at the western side of the residence. Construction of a new 2,000 square foot two-story addition, including basement, and a 11 square foot extension to the porch, includes new staircases at the rear of the residence, and a re-roof to replace existing clay S-tile material with two-piece mission tile throughout. This is requesting acceptance of a revised Phase 2 Historic Structure Sites Report prepared by Post Hazeltine. Report concluded the proposed project meets the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. Therefore, project impacts on significant historic resources would be less than significant, Class 3. And then Part B will be project design approval is requested. Project compatibility findings and major alteration findings are required. This project was last reviewed December 7th, 2022. With this, why don't we do the A-B split? So we'll do review the historic structures report and conclusions, pause it, and then go to B and design review, and then we'll go from there. And maybe we'll go over the meeting minutes first from last time. All right. So welcome. Yeah, why don't you introduce yourselves for the record?
Pamela Post of Post Hazeltine Associates.
Tim Hazeltine, Post Hazeltine Associates.
Will Soffren, designer.
Thank you. All right. So from last time we had to continue indefinitely the Phase 2 Historic Structure Site Report and project with the following comments. Overall, the design is favorable. 2, the mass bulk and scale is supportable as designed with minor recommendations, which include A, on the southwest perspective, both the third story elevation and side elevation need to be restudied with the suggestion of looking at full alignment of planes, as well as looking at aligning the top story gable on the side elevation with the wall below. B, on the third story elevation, look at potentially overhanging the upper 2 stories with corbels in a manner similar to what is being done in the front. 3, the upper level balcony of the gable facing out on the southwest perspective is too large, study making it smaller. 4, a dark brown balcony color stained or painted is more appropriate than a white balcony for this Monterey style balcony. 5, as the project moves forward, lighting and landscape design will be important, especially in the pool facing areas and the large plaster walls. 6, study and refine the 3 square openings on the lowest level facing the pool by aligning the placement so there are equal walls on either side and or narrowing the space of the opening division or another solution. 7, the surface texture is to be consistent with existing and illustrate the texture on the future renderings. 8, at least half the commission believes all wood railings would be better than a mix of wood and iron. 9, the research into the property and into the other Cook designs is excellent. 10, the commission believes that going to plaster eaves for both fire and in a way that's appropriate to the Cook architecture is convincing and acceptable. 11, in general, the design of the new door and window openings are going in the right direction by matching existing proportions, sizes, divisions, and muntins. The motion was by Uli, second was by Butler, 6-0-0. House, Drury, and Lenvick were absent. The motion carried.
Mr. Chair,
All right.
seeing that I was absent for that and I have not reviewed the video of that, I will abstain from comments.
All right, thank you.
Same for me.
Chair Grumbine, if I could also, we had asked, the applicant team had asked staff to clarify the comment about landscaping. And so I would like to read into the record an email that I have from Commissioner Manuel that I sent to the applicant team, just so that everyone is aware of the direction they received in regards to that. It was regarding final approval. So today is just project design approval, but For this project, being that they are in an area with considerable grade change and also adding a large house addition and grading for a pool and pool terrace, I would like to see a landscape plan showing planting of all the expected affected areas. I imagine that in order to build what they are proposing, there will be considerable damage to the existing landscape adjacent to construction. I would be surprised if they aren't already considering planting and lighting improvements. And then also, I should let you know, I did advise the applicant to remove the pool from these plans because it's not actually being proposed at this time. We'll likely come back with it later, but at this time, it's not actually being proposed. So I just want you guys to be aware of all that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So with that, if you all would, if Post Hazeltine would go through your summary of the updated design and what you found about it,
Okay,
and then we
great.
can kind of go from there.
If we could turn to, there are actually very few changes, literally with the exception of the eave detail, there are no changes to the street facade, so we're just going to go back past that and go to figure 6 on page 11 of the report. That is the rear elevation, so that would, there we go. Oh, whoops, I'm sorry, I pulled out the wrong, figure 6, sorry. It's the one above it, just on the same page. Let's see, there we go.
5 is the back.
Yeah,
Existing.
there it is, sorry,
Proposed. There we go.
pardon. So this is the revised design. The revisions to this elevation address comment 2, which was it was to reduce the depth of the third floor balcony on the addition, the front gabled addition on the left-hand side of the elevation, and to restudy the piers. And as I noted, to address the balcony, its depth was decreased by approximately, I believe, 25%. The openings in the ground floor or basement level, whatever we'd like to call it, piers have been thickened and added some detailing, some chamfering, and some corbel elements to sort of thicken them up to make them look more as if they were supporting a great deal of weight rather than looking thin and insubstantial. And they're plastered also. To address the balcony railings, actually, the applicant decided to stay with metal. There are some historic precedents for the mixture of metal and wood railings on houses designed by architects such as George Washington Smith. So those are really the major changes to the back. So we still have a varied material palette for the balconies. The Monterey style balcony would be wood on the second floor of the original part of the house. We were supportive of this change because it introduces elements that I think more in keeping with the house's architecture, and Pam thought that the weight and substantiality of the lower piers are sufficient to give the appearance that they are weight-bearing and structural rather than decorative. The remainder of the elevation, the other change is they've jettied out the 2 top floors on the addition, or cantilevered. So they removed that little sort of one story, that little bit of projection element that sort of wrapped around the other side to the west elevation. And we feel this is a better solution. It's more traditional and.
Can you hover over where that was too?
Yeah, right here. I don't know if they can see that. Can I use the mouse on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go.
That's what it's for.
I do everything on my laptop with my fingers, so I'm sorry. Right here.
Okay. Yep.
Oops. So right in here, before this had a slight projection, and so now the the bottom floor is actually recessed a bit, or as we like to say, jettied, and it's supported by these corbel elements, or at least gives the illusion that it's supported by these. And so we felt that was, a better solution
Okay.
than the previous model. Let me just take a look at my notes for a moment. And the color, there's a discussion about the balcony railings, the color of the woodwork, and they have been revised to be a dark brown, which is more traditional and more in keeping with the Monterey Revival style, so we were supportive of that. The lighting and landscape plan, at this time, as noted in the report, the pool isn't proposed. The landscaping at this end of the property, there's no original landscaping left, so it's mostly turf with some parameter plantings. And we don't see an impact to the historic landscape elements, which are confined to the front garden that faces Dover Lane. So we don't see that there would be an impact from, for instance, reestablishing turf and the revisions to the terrace, the non-historic terrace. We don't see those as affecting the historic part of the landscaping. The second page. And also, even though you obviously can't see it on the elevations, the design, the texture and finish of the flat plaster work will match the existing. And we feel that, of course, is supportable as it is within the historic character of the building. And I think we'll then go to the west elevation, which is the, trying to remember where that is. Here we go. If on page 12, you can see figure 9, that's existing, so that's what's there now. And this next one, which is figure 10, is the revised design. And this has really been simplified a great deal to address the comment about perhaps an over-complexity of planes. And so this has been made much more linear, sort of flatter. But it's sort of more in character with the house, which doesn't have a lot of projections and recessions. So seems to be a more agile solution visually in terms of compatibility. So Pam and I felt that this also met the standards. And we go into each of the standards again, but essentially they recapitulate what I've just spoken to. And so our conclusion was that the revised project meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. And of course, as we noted before, some elements that the commission might, decorative elements and such that may need further modulation, but they don't rise to the level that would make the project inconsistent with the standards. And that finishes my brief presentation.
All right, great. All right, so with that, we'll open public comment on this portion, and then, and get that taken care of. So any member of the public wishing to comment on this item that is in the room? All right, seeing none, we'll go to virtual public comment.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. If anyone
And
participating...
this is for just the historic report portion.
Thank you. If anyone's participating via Zoom would like to speak on just the historic structures site report, please go ahead and raise your hand and we'll call on you. Not seeing any raised hands, and then we did not receive any written correspondence for this. Back to you.
All right, so now we've done public comment. I guess we can do questions from the commission right now, and then we'll pause it after that. But any questions
Chair.
for the historian?
Yes.
Yes.
On page 13, figure 6. I thought it was, well, I was looking at the numbers up above, yeah.
The PDF, page 13, sorry,
Yeah,
not
PDF,
yet.
page 13.
Yeah, I'll just go to figure 6. Okay, great.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay. On that first floor, if I read that right, there's a wood beam supported by masonry columns, is that right?
Where the number 4 is pointing to, that's the
Yeah. All of these.
that's the plaster.
Plaster columns. Okay.
Correct. Plastered columns with a wood lintel.
Okay, and then are those wood
Plaster
corbel?
beam. I'm sorry, plaster beam.
Oh, those plaster beams?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
And then what's the corbel?
Are those plaster corbels? The main question is there another example of that combination of elements on the house?
No, but there are some elements here that are not piers. So just the addition of the pier, that is a new element, but they're within the design vocabulary of the Spanish colonial revival. So we believe that they're suitable to this addition, because the house actually has the only opening, it's not even really a complete opening, is there's a slight arched recession around the front door. And then, of course, on the east elevation, there's the original one-story porch with the front gable roof, and that's supported by wood, fairly modest wood posts. They're not beefy, they're basically pretty small. And so we felt that because this was on the rear and adding another element, it's in the same architectural vocabulary, but it's recalling the style, but it's not trying to mimic something else on the house and create, just a sort of reuse of other elements like the arched opening around the front door and just repeating that over and over again, which thought that would not be appropriate, as it might create some
More
confusion.
explanation than I needed.
Okay.
I wanted to know if that occurred.
I always say, ask a historian a question, you'll get a half-hour answer.
You're going to get a book.
Sorry about that.
All right.
I have,
Commissioner Jordan?
Mr. Chair, I have a question, just for the record. So the drawings that appear in the Phase 2 revised historic structure site report match now the drawings that we'll see for the project design approval? Okay, cool.
All right. Well, that's a good first step. All right. Commissioner Woolley?
I had a question on the report, page 13, bottom of that page.
Report page 13, right?
Yeah. It talks about a landscape plan, but there is no landscape plan, so
There is a landscape plan.
Yeah.
it's not part of the drawing packet, so
Yes, it is, sir.
page, what page is it?
Well, I don't know if we actually included, let me check. I think it's in the appendix with the plan. And it's, to speak to that, Commissioner, it's essentially recapitulating what's there now, which is turf with some sort of parameter plantings. And as was discussed before and presented at the last meeting, this is basically what's back there now. And the pool, as noted, is not at this time part of the project. So it's really confined to the area off the rear of the house, yeah. So, and essentially that's what's there now is turf and some trees and some shrubs, mostly confined right as you get to the parameter near the fencing and walls.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah.
It says L on the sheet.
Yeah, it says L1, but that doesn't appear to be a landscape plan to me. I'm not a professional landscape architect, but it looks more like a survey. All right.
Any other questions? Okay, for the historians. Okay, so now let's put this on pause. Let's go to 3B, Part B, and look at the project design approval. And so if you could introduce yourself for the record and take us through, especially telling us what changed, how you answered our comments, and any other new stuff that we haven't seen before.
Thank you, commissioners, for having me. Again, Will Soffren, the designer. Your comments were very clear and made it easy for us to focus in and address the concerns from the last meeting. What I found that worked very, very well in our last meeting was to look at our renderings. They seem to have the most amount of impact. So since we didn't really change any of the floor plans, we do understand already, as Post Hazeltine cleared up, that sort of one of the biggest issues was the alignment of planes on the western wall facade. So I'm just going to go down to our rendering sheet.
We call them jigs and jogs.
Jigs and jogs. Great. All right. The north facade, which is the street facade, as Post Hazeltine discussed, there's no change to this impact, except for we had the alignment of planes. So on the western facade right here, we're looking south. I'm going to go over to our eastern facade of the proposed project, and you can see what we've done is we've pulled back the first story at this level, and then what we've done is we've created a cantilever per the recommendation of comment B item number 2 in the corrections. Obviously, the biggest impact is our southern elevation. There was the comments sort of about this opening of the loggia looking a little too much like a garage. So what we've done is we've changed that and we've added these piers and then added some architectural details. To address sort of what was brought up earlier about the architectural details and the elements was through our research about Cook's work. Cook was a bit of an eclectic architect, mixing different styles in his projects. And to satisfy, not sort of repeating or regurgitating work, but we thought this would be an opportunity to add some new elements that conform to the style, to this home and structure. There was a comment in the western, sort of when you looked at the western elevation of this balcony, that it was too large, so we've reduced it by 25% to reduce the projection of it. I do know that there was concern about the mix of metal and wood. We've got the wooden Monterey balcony, and we've got the mix of metal railings for these areas. We opted to go for the metal here instead of sticking with the corbels and the wood because we thought that also in reducing the scale of the balcony by going to the metal, we've reduced sort of the massing impact of this balcony. To support our move for this, we found an excellent example of this George Washington Smith home where you see juxtaposition to each other. We have a Monterey style porch up here, and then we have this stucco balcony with the Juliet balcony with the metal railing. Right here we have a Plunkett and Edwards home here in Santa Barbara that appears to be historically intact, and we see the combination again of the Monterey wood railings or Monterey balcony and then the metal railings below again. So we found those to be our inspiration to support this motive or this design intent. This is our western elevation, and again, very, very simple. I think the aligning of the planes really improved the project significantly, and I'm also a big fan of the suggestion of the cantilever that happened down here for the second and third story above the first. I know it's already been addressed. There was comment sort of concern about the texture of the stucco siding. Our plan is to absolutely all the work that'll be done is all the work that'll be done. This will be match the existing textures, colors, and so that's my presentation.
All right, thank you. Can you just scroll through the last few pages too, just so we've officially.
Just one comment. The landscape plan, the reason why it does look the way it does is we followed Commissioner Manuel's direction to hatch out any existing landscape that would not be affected by the project. So that is why all this is hatched, and this small cut area is the only area of the landscape that is in fact impacted by this project.
Okay. Is that the last page?
That's the last page,
Okay.
sir. Yeah.
Great. All right. So with that, that concludes your project. We'll now open for public comment on 3B for the design portion. Any members of the public in the room wishing to comment? All right. Seeing none, we'll go to virtual public comment.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. If anyone participating virtually would like to speak on the design portion of this project, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Not seeing any raised hands, and we did not receive any written correspondence. So back to you, Chair Grumbine.
All right. Thank you. All right. To the commission for questions about this project, about the design of the project. All right. Commissioner Manuel.
Can you go to that landscape plan, or L1? Do you show any plants or call out any plants?
I call out in this area, this leveled area, what the planning is going to be. It's just going to be a turf. So I have a plant legend right here. And we've got number 2, and I've got my keynote right here, which says what the planning is going to be. And
Native low water landscape?
there, it's going to be dune sedge.
Okay. And then on the, I guess that's the west side of the building, that new addition, you've got existing landscape going right up to the addition.
That's correct, sir.
In reality, it won't be. There'll be a significant amount of disturbance there, and so you'll have to figure out what that disturbance is realistically going to be, and then have planting on there. And it'll all be more than, you need, I think per the comments from last time, there was a comment about having some height of landscape against that wall, that big plaster face wall. So take that into consideration for moving forward with the planting plan.
Understood, Commissioner. This is a photograph showing, looking up the western side yard of the property, showing that there really is no planting there, and this hedge that exists is on the neighbor's property, so we're...
Are you proposing to not have any landscape there?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. All right. Other questions by the commissioners? I'll throw a question out there. So it seems like there's a little bit of discrepancy between your renderings of the back south elevation and the drawings and the renderings. I'm just trying to understand what's being proposed for those piers that were the plaster piers that were brought up. Because on the drawings, you have corbels and you have what looks like a beam, and you're saying plaster beam. On the renderings, I don't see the corbels. I see similar columns or piers. They're a little bit different, but I see similar ones. So can we go to the rendering there? And just want to know what is being proposed exactly. And then I see that your examples that you show of the plaster pier with the chamfered corners and a somewhat similar base and capital as your inspiration. So for that, yeah, so they are perfect. So I don't see the side corbels on those piers.
Yeah, I don't have the side corbels on there. I think that the corbels were something with the rendering that I had, and I took them off, but we could go either way. I kind of think it looks better without the corbels.
Okay, I think you're right, but that'll be a comment. Okay, and then the front corbels that are popping out then from above, yeah, right there. Those you're proposing those as sort of smaller wood corbels that are just.
Those would be sort of rafter tails.
Yeah.
Projecting to, just sort of stumpy little rafter tails.
Yeah, sort of like floor joists that were popping out. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then I think that was it for my questions.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I have
Vice
a
Chair.
question,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what page it was on, but it might be on this page, the front entry elevation. Yeah, to the right, okay, the one to the right.
The side elevation?
The side
Oh,
elevation.
that one. Is there another example of a large plastered pediment on wood columns on the house, or?
I had a similar question when I was looking at the drawings. That's not rendered quite correct. There's a wood beam going across. There is a plaster pediment there on the existing house. That porch element. You're talking about this one right here, right?
Yeah.
They have an existing photo that can show it, what the existing condition is.
Okay.
I think it's 3 posts in that corner right there.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like me to?
Yeah,
the
actually, do you have a
photograph?
photo? Let's pull it up real fast just so we're clear. And you might have to zoom out to.
Yeah. There we go.
There it is, bottom right, or near the bottom right. Okay. Yeah. It's 3 in an L shape, and then with one beam across.
Okay. And that's existing.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Other questions? Commissioner
Chair Grumbine,
Ensberg?
yes. On the side elevations, I think it's west, is it west? Can we look at that a sec?
Would you like to look at the rendering or the architectural drawing?
The architectural drawing. It's just a odd question, I think. Is it, okay, there we go. Whoop.
Oh, no. Oh. Thank you.
Yeah, that lower one. So the windows go down to the grade that close? Or,
Oh, man. I'm sorry. I'm used to Max.
Yeah, if you hit Z and then just do a highlight wherever you want to zoom into.
I'm just looking at those lower level windows and how close they are to the grade. So I was just curious about that.
So these are
Like this one-
existing.
Yeah, those, but the one on the far right there.
Yeah. So we put that there to just add some more light because it's going to be sort of like a basement kind of setting in a dark room. So we know that it's close to grade, but there is also these that are close to grade, and there's a lot of benefit from these windows. So that was.
Okay, and then, thank you for that. And then on the west elevation.
Okay. This is west. So you want to go to
sorry,
east?
the rear.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just to clarify for me one more time, the top railing is wood, the lower railing is metal, and the one on the left, the Juliet, is metal.
Yes, this Monterey balcony would have wood railing, wood balusters, and the Juliet balcony would have a wood railing, metal railing,
that's
sorry,
metal
metal railing,
railing.
metal balusters, as well as this
So
uncovered
we have
porch.
metal in two spots and then the wood above.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments? Or any questions, I should say. All right, let's roll into comments. Who wants to start?
I have a
Sure,
couple, Mr. Chair, I have a couple of comments. On the south elevation, I agree that the pilasters, the cap of the pilaster needs to figure out what it wants to be. The photographic example, I think, is probably more traditional for a pilaster like that, so there are no corbels associated to it. So the drawings need to be clear as to what that that column is doing. I liked the addition of the corbels to the cantilevered two-story element to the left of those. But feel that the corbels are just a little too anemic. It has a huge two-story mass that it's holding up, and it doesn't, to me, in my opinion, doesn't feel like they would, even in an imagination, support the load. So it would suggest that the corbels be larger and fewer, so that it looks like it's holding something up. But I appreciate the resolution of the various popping in and out of the planes around the building. I think it simplifies it a lot, cleans it up a lot, and I think that is a benefit to your project.
Thank you.
All right, other comments? Not you.
Not me. Lips are sealed.
Other commissioners, comments?
I'll go ahead.
All right.
For the landscape plan, even though it's just dirt back there, since you're on a slope, you're disrupting the slope. Wherever you're disrupting, just show planting there. And
In the
something,
renderings, I see little growies there.
I know, and those don't look like sedges to me. I wasn't going to bring that up.
Are you talking about right here?
No, next to the doors.
Now the box is
Next to
open.
the French door right there.
Oh, right there, yeah.
Oh, yeah, see, that render, he likes to put nice things in.
Spruce it up, but it's not actually on the plan. So if you're going to have plantings like that, like, Mediterranean style, have it on the planting plan.
Oh, I apologize. It is.
On the,
These plantings are on the landscape plan.
oh, can you go to the landscape plan? Because all I heard was sedges.
Sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
So we've got the two
Oh, there
plant
we
beds
go,
right there,
4 and
Keynote 4, and then we have the plant legend right here that calls out the reference to Keynote 4 with the species of plants.
Oh, you got it. Cool. Okay, well then just show planting on the west side
West
there.
side. Yes, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Planting. Okay. All right, other comments?
Mr. Chair, I'll just very quick, brief comments. I think this has made real progress since the last time we saw it, and that what remains are details to be worked out, but certainly not major issues from my point of view. Progress has been made.
Yep. Okay.
Chair Grumbine?
Yes, Commissioner Ansbert.
I agree, and it's looking really, really good. So good job. I just have a couple of comments, and let's go to that rear elevation, the south. I'm not convinced about the railing. All these railings. I just always am into simplification. Oh,
There we go.
yeah, there we go. Okay, so that bottom one. I think that the railing on the upper left, if it's a Juliet, you've shrunk it in, which was requested, but now it's too wide, in my opinion. I think that it should be shrunk up and brought in closer to the doors to actually be like a Juliet balcony, and I think that would look better. There's just all this horizontality, in my opinion. And I still think that, I like the wood railing. I think pick a railing and go with it, although I think that if you do wood on the other deck areas, that the metal for the Juliet would be perfectly appropriate if it was narrower, so that it actually looked like that. So that's one comment. And then, on the lighting, it seems like there's an awful lot of lighting. Like, I know you have to have them at the doors, but that upper area, maybe you could, pull the light over to the door, so it's part of the door arrangement for both of those. And then just
Sorry, can you say that again?
on the upper level, the light fixtures are shown centered around the middle window.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was going to suggest that you study perhaps making it part of the composition with the door. So maybe pull it closer to the door. And that some of these others, maybe you don't need to have quite so many. Just something to think about. And then finally, that little window that was on the front that was close to the ground, maybe if possible, I don't think it has to match the others that were low. And if it could be raised up a little bit, I think it might work better.
Oh,
Unless
I would love to raise it up, but then we're sort of running into limitations, and that goes back to the Corbel comment too, which is you can see how close the door headers are
Yes.
to the corbels right there already. And so I think it would be an awkward experience inside the space to try and raise that window on the side.
Can it match the head of the door?
It is at the head of the door.
It is?
Yes.
Oh, okay, well, then I guess that's all you can do. And then I think it was Commissioner Uli who said on the corbels, maybe fewer and bigger, and I had that same thought too, so I appreciate that comment.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, any other comments? So I have a few to dovetail into some of your comments in the balconies. And I think I may have made at least one of the balcony, I was saying shorten it, the balcony, but I probably was misspeaking. I was meaning actually don't make it as wide as it is, not the depth so much as the width. So I think if you brought it in, I don't think it necessarily has to become a full Juliet where it's engaged. I think having enough space for, two little chairs out there or something could be fine. But I think the width of it is really, really wide, and I don't think it necessarily has to be as shallow as it is. It could be a little back to where you were maybe if you bring it in, I think. But the main thing is just because it stretches from window to window, and it seems like it wants to come to the doors instead of the window. So I would say that would be a study it thing.
Mr. Chair, just to dive right on that. So let's say, fast forward, it comes back. Are we then going to make a comment that it needs brackets under it or some other thing?
I was wondering about that, actually. The depth of it does, with that type of a balcony where it's plaster, all plaster, you do see them, that you can probably find some examples where they're cantilevering decently far, but they don't cantilever that far. So also be careful on that it's not too far, and maybe come back with some examples to prove it as well in terms of your depth, that it's historically accurate. So that's a good point, because and then regarding the railings, I would comment that I think that the metal and the wood is fine. I think that combination is fine. This currently exists, and it works. I understand also simplification. All wood would be fine too, in my opinion. I do think that there's a language argument, because the Monterey balcony, or just the big long balcony, wooden balcony, is all one sort of whole system of large beams sticking out of the wall, big posts, wood posts, cantilevering roof. So that as a whole makes sense as an element. So I'm not as worried when you change elements and planes and everything else that the wrought iron, but I think it could work either way. So
I do have another example of another George Washington Smith project that looks very identical to this.
but this isn't a George Washington Smith.
Oh, I understand. But look, I just bring it up because last time I was here, you asked me to bring
No.
historic.
It's not a bad reference point to do. So yeah, no, but it is still Spanish Claim Revival, so that's fair. So those are good examples to bring and talk about. I think both could work. So so that I think there might be varying opinions on what's better, but I think both could work, and which is also why obviously the historians are can support this, because it could be it's not breaking the Secretary of Interior standards in that sense. Regarding the corbels that are holding the cantilever, the two-story cantilever, I agree both with you that it's a challenge because you don't have that much distance, and then also. But with the comment still that they need to feel beefy enough that they can hold it. And you've got to figure it out with number and with size of them, and horizontally projecting, bracket versus, that's extending pretty far. So yeah, it's a challenge. The other thing is your door. So maybe you space them on either side of the door, they get beefier, or something else, looking at combos of things. And then regarding the piers, the plaster piers we talked about, I think those, as mentioned, they need to be restudied, or not restudied, but chosen where you're going with it. And I think they're confused with the corbels, and maybe looking at some more examples of plaster pier, plaster beam, because that's what you're proposing, and how those intersect might be helpful. But I think you're almost there with those. All right, and then as was also said, I guess I'm sort of summarizing all the comments, but I won't add any more because there's a few more I also said. I guess the question to the, I can summarize our actual comments, but the question to the commission is, all these comments seem to be pretty minor and in the detail level. Are we all feeling comfortable that this is ready for project design approval, and then all these things to be worked out when coming back final? All right, I'm seeing a lot of yes. So in that case, I'll summarize actually, in that case, I guess we could give project design approval, then go back and give approve the report, or vice versa. Should we
The
go back?
report allows for the CEQA exemption, so.
So let's do that. So now I'll pause. Seeing that, let's pause and go back to item A of this. And it's also sounding that everyone's in agreement with the historians on the conclusions of the report. And so I'd look for a motion to accept the report.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Jordan beat you to it.
Second.
All right, there we go. Motion by Commissioner Jordan, second by Commissioner Uli. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll take the roll call vote. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Drury?
Abstain?
Commissioner Ensberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel?
Yes.
Vice Chair House?
Abstain.
And Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, good. Now we're going to the Part B, back to Part B. So I'll summarize the comments that we have, that we've had. So let's look at, there we go, good. On the south elevation, let's start with there. Well, actually, let's start with the general overall comment. The project is the applicant has done a wonderful job of listening to the comments and bringing forth a design that's worthy of approval. And so thank you for that. So the first, and with that, the comment on the south elevation of the items to still change. The south elevation, the depth of the balcony on the third floor may be the correct depth, or it might be able to get deeper. But to restudy it with the width of the balcony being made smaller and bring it to the inside of the windows, between the windows and the door and the pair of doors. And to look at examples of that type of balcony historically in Spanish colonial revival. And especially a cook, if you can find them. All right, and then for the plaster piers in the south elevation, the preference is for them to, or not the preference, they're in conflict with the corbels and the plaster beam above. So to restudy the piers and to pick a direction, especially based on a historic precedence of plaster pier and plaster beam above. Let's see, the overhang of the two-story overhang above the ground floor on the south elevation to restudy the corbel size and number, size, shape, and number to make the second story feel more supported visually. All right. The railings. So there was a split among the commission between whether they can have wood. It could have all wood railings or wood and iron, with commissioners feeling supportive of both. And so I guess that's to take that into consideration as you go forward. And let's see, the lighting. To study the lights on the third story, this is still the south elevation, the lights to get them closer to the doors as opposed to flanking the window. And then on the second level, to study, what was the lighting study in the second level?
Number of lights.
No.
Overall, just the number.
Yeah,
to-
yes, I see. To
do you
study
really-
the number of lights as they appear to be, there seems to be a lot. On the, I guess just on the whole elevation. And then planting plan, to add planters on the west side where the area of development will be. And let's see, anything else?
At least to the level of disturbance.
At least to the level of disturbance. Okay, area disturbance. Great.
Can I clarify, is that planters or just planting?
Planting.
Okay.
And then, let's see, anything else? Can we go to the west elevation real fast, just to make sure nothing jumps out? I think we covered all those things. Yeah, I think that looks good. And then to come back for, because this is going to go for project design approval, so to come back or for final with all the appropriate details, and especially all of the ones that we have been discussing. So, all right. So those are the comments. Does anyone want to make a motion for project design approval, and that's to do compatibility findings?
So moved.
And major alteration findings. All
So
right.
moved.
All right.
Second.
Commissioner Jordan. Ooh, you're totally getting outshot. All right. Second by Commissioner.
Go through that whole list.
Exactly. It was. You were letting them.
Chair Grumbine,
All right.
can I also clarify, is it final approval back at full commission, or could it go on consent?
Yeah, I think it's probably back in full commission.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of elements here, but they're moving in the right direction. But I think this is okay. And does the maker of the motion, the second, feel that way?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So a seconder too. Okay. All right. So now project compatibility findings. All right. Take it away.
Yes.
Yes. I find the project consistent with the design guidelines applicable to this location within the city. I find it compatible with the architectural character of the city and the neighborhood. It has appropriate size, mass, bulk, height, and scale. Sensitive to adjacent landmarks and historic resources. Is this a?
To itself, it's a.
To itself, okay. It is sensitive to itself. Public public views of the oceans and mountains are not an issue, correct? And the use of open space, the project includes an appropriate amount of open space and landscaping. The exterior alterations are being made to restore a historic resource or in order to substantially aid its preservation or enhancement as a historic resource. The exterior alterations are consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards.
All right. And does the seconder have to agree with those as well?
Agreed.
Okay, we'll agree anyways, just
Whether
in case. We
or
don't
not.
want to have to re-vote on this like we did on our consent item, our consent. Okay. All right, so we have a second motion and a second and all those findings. So under discussion, any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. I'll take the roll call vote. Commissioner Drury,
Abstain?
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Abstain.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, great, congratulations. Great job.
Thank you.
Oh, and this is appealable within 10 days to City Council. All right.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So we are on to item 4, archaeology report.
Chair
Mr. Stone.
Oh, yes.
I need to recuse myself from 4, 5, and I guess 6, but it's not being reviewed for a conflict of interest with the applicant.
All right. Have a good evening.
Alrighty.
We're 2 archaeology reports behind you, so it's not that far. All right. So with that, 710 East Coda. This project consists of a 3-story, 3-unit condominium building with
Did you
3
bring
parking
the
spaces.
Ocean Breeze or whatever those are
One
called?
space per unit on the 5,000 square foot lot. The existing 1,900 square foot residence will be demolished. The discretionary applications requested for this project are a vested tentative subdivision map, a parking modification, and a front setback modification. Note that a similar proposal for development of the adjacent property at 712 East Coda is being reviewed simultaneously, and both projects are shown on the project plans. Request for acceptance of a Phase 1 archaeological resources report prepared for the project by David Stone and of Stone Archaeological Consulting. The report has been reviewed by Dr. Glassow, who agrees with the conclusions and recommendations. So welcome.
Motion to approve.
Chair Grumbine?
No, make them squirm first.
Just real
Yes.
quick, I just want to let you know, this is a project that will be going to ABR. It's not an HLC project, so it really is just here for the archaeological report.
All right, well, maybe our can't review reports like we review reports. All right.
I just want to let you know, thanks for including me in that very educational
The previous project?
experience. I felt like I was back on the Landmarks Committee with the county, where I served for 5 years.
Nice.
I wanted to point out, thank you, Chair Grumbine, that 710 East Coda is the next item. It is covered in the same report that you're looking at right now. It was a consolidated report in 2-4, which I appreciate. And if necessary, we can just repeat the same information for the
Yeah,
next
we'll
item.
have to open both
Yeah,
items, but it
okay.
is the same report.
So I'll just go do the background for this report. This report was very, very straightforward. A record search of previous investigations were done. It indicated that there were 19 previous investigations, archaeological, surrounding both project sites within 1/8 of a mile, which is a good number for the city, and there were no archaeological resources identified, either prehistoric or historic. Our background research of archival maps, including the Wackenruder maps that you may remember from my last presentation to you for State Street, did not indicate that any structures were present in the 1800s. In fact, for both I'll just stick to 710. At this point, the earliest construction was in 1937, which postdates sewer and trash. So in this case, we're not anticipating any unknown historic trash pits in the periphery of the property. The survey did not, as Dr. Glasso agreed, find anything of sensitivity, and even though there is an existing single-family house on this property, there were sufficient ground surfaces for us to have a reliable conclusion that there would be no archaeological impacts associated with this project. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we can now open public comment. Seeing no one left here in Santa Barbara, we'll go to virtual people, virtual public comment.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. If anyone participating virtually would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand. Not seeing any raised hands, and we did not receive any written correspondence. Back to you.
All right, so back to the commission for any questions on this item. All right, looking for a motion?
Motion for approval is submitted.
Second.
All right, motion by Vice Chair House, second by Commissioner Uli. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll take the roll call vote. Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Drury?
Yep.
Commissioner Ensberg?
Yes.
Vice Chair House?
Yes.
And Chair Grumbine.
All right, aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, so now,
Rewind
item
the tape
5.
and play it back.
Archaeology report 712 East Coda. Project consists of 3-story. I already read all that no, I didn't actually. This project consists of a 3-story, 3-unit condominium building with 3 parking spaces on a 5,000 square foot lot. The existing 1,400 square foot residence will be demolished. Discretionary application requests for this project are a vesting tentative subdivision map, parking modification, front setback modification, and interior setback modification. Note that similar proposal for development of the adjacent property at 710 East Coda Street is being reviewed simultaneously, and both projects are shown on the project plans. All right, welcome again.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here again. So the only difference between this project and 710 is that the existing structure was built in 1938 rather than 1937. But the reliability of the results are identical.
All right, and I'll just actually, sorry, I forgot, I didn't read the last portion. Request for acceptance of a Phase 1 archaeological resources report prepared for the project by David Stone. Not Dr. David Stone, Dr. Glasow agrees with the conclusions and recommendations. All right, so now, any questions from the commission?
Public comment?
Oh, sorry, public comment. Whew, it's going too fast there. All right, still no one in the room for public comment, so virtual public comment?
If anyone participating virtually would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Not seeing any raised hands, and we did not receive written correspondence for this item. Back to you.
All right, back to the commission. Any questions for 712 East Coda?
Motion for approval is submitted.
Second.
All right, motion by Vice Chair House, second by Commissioner Uli. Under discussion, any discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll take the roll call vote. Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Vice Chair House?
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Drury?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
And Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right.
I just suggest that you take the rest of the day off.
All right. And with that, it's 5:01. We
adjourn.
missed it by 1 minute.
We'll adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, I'll adjourn the meeting. I was almost made a 4.